What's going on, everyone? Happy flippin' Friday and good evening. My name is Season Pixels, and you're watching The Breakdown here on Foxhole, DLive, Twitch. And actually, we're no longer on Twitch. Foxhole, DLive, Rumble, X, and now YouTube as well, which I believe we should be streaming on YouTube now. Let me just double check and make sure that's working. First time in a very, very long time that I've decided to go live on YouTube. Thought that we'd give it a shot for today's episode. And yeah, we're live on there right now, so it's working. Glad that I could get that working just fine. Very cool. So we have a lot of news to get through today, guys. It is an insanely busy news day out there. Very excited for what's going to be quite a marathon tonight. Quite a marathon it will be, probably lasting a good 4 hours, if you guys want to know the truth. So probably around that 2-hour mark, we'll be flipping over to pilled.net exclusively for the rest of the night. So keep that in mind for anyone out there watching on a different platform. And once again, it's good to have everybody out there. Hopefully you're all very much enjoying your Friday. Before we get into the news of the day, guys, we have a lot of people checking in over on pilled.net. Big shout out to 412 Productions out there for the raid. Tons of people coming in from that raid, so shout out to you, Adel. Appreciate the raid as always. We got Nancy Kaya 75 over there on YouTube says, whoa, got a notification. Pretty cool, right? I mean, yeah, I have not been live on YouTube in years and years and years. I thought, you know what, might as well give it a shot. I recently stopped streaming on Twitch because there's just so many spammers over there. It's like playing whack-a-mole, so I decided, you know what, I got an extra free slot on Restream. Why the heck not? Why not go live on YouTube? So we're live over there as well. Keep in mind, though, we will be ushering everyone back over to pilled.net at the halfway mark of the show. With that being said, I think we're ready to go ahead and get this thing started. Coffee Talk with Sandra out there with a cookie says, happy Friday. Much love to you, Coffee Talk, as always. Really appreciate you, and thank you so much for the cookie. All right, guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our 54 pile, or news story pile here. Yes, you heard it right, guys. 54 stories tonight. We have so many tabs that they don't even have room to have a title up there. They're just little icons. So it's going to be a fun night, guys. First story over at thegatewaypundit.com. Assistant AG Harmeet Dillon reveals that 260,000 plus dead voters and thousands of illegals are registered to vote in 2026 after limited review of state voter rolls. There are 15 lawsuits pending against states for refusing record review. And we just covered the story about those lawsuits the other day against several blue states for refusing that record review, and essentially they don't want to give the Department of Justice their voter records, right? Their QVFs, essentially, their qualified voter file. Look, there's only one reason why they would want to hide this from the Department of Justice, and that honestly is because they've got something to hide. So let's go ahead and see what Harmeet Dillon has to say. And remember, Harmeet Dillon is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. She on Friday provided an update on the federal government's review of state voter registration data in less than 30 states, and she revealed that hundreds of thousands of dead and illegal alien voters are registered to vote. I'm sure nobody out there is really surprised to hear that. Unless, of course, you're new to my show. Only looking at 47.5 million records from nearly 30 states, Dillon says the DOJ found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls and several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. Don't even need to say it, but obviously this is a massive problem. How are we supposed to be confident in election results if this is the case? Roughly 174 million people voted in the 2024 elections. Currently, 15 lawsuits are pending against 14 states, with 2 in California alone for refusing to provide records to the federal government, Dillon said. As the Gateway Pundit reported, Dillon announced on Tuesday that the DOJ has sued Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington for refusing to hand over their statewide voter registration lists as required under federal law. And again, there is no reason why these people from Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington are refusing to hand this stuff over unless they have something to hide, unless they know that there are thousands of ineligible people on their lists and they have no excuse for it. The only reason that this can happen is if you are not actually following the law when registering people. So, yeah, it's just totally nuts. Real quick, I'm noticing a wonderful comment out there on Pilled. I just have to thank you for this. Daniel Becker says, "Wow, you're looking good." Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I've lost nearly 40 pounds at this point because I, for the 95% most part, like quit drinking. So that's kind of all I've done. I quit drinking and having fatty, sugary snacks at 3 in the morning. And yeah, it's amazing what can happen when you stop doing those two things. I feel good too. So again, Daniel Becker, thank you for the comment, man. I appreciate it. In March, President Trump signed the Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections executive order, which mandates voter ID and documentary proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, audits and improves the security of voting machines, and orders the DOJ to enforce the law against states that count mail-in ballots received after Election Day. It also prioritizes the enforcement of laws that prevent foreign money from influencing elections and prohibit federally funded organizations from lobbying or supporting candidates. That last one, I think, is a really important point. The order also includes a provision that the Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the DOJ administrator, shall review each state's publicly available voter registration list and available records concerning voter list maintenance activities as required by 52 U.S. Code 20,507, alongside federal immigration databases and state records requested, including through subpoena where necessary and authorized by law for consistency with federal requirements. Dillon provided the following update on Friday, and of course, the rest of this, or at least most of the rest of this, is transcript. As the Gateway Pundit reported, President Trump recently declared we must focus all of our energy and might on election fraud in a Truth Social post. If the Trump administration doesn't crack down on election fraud before November 2026, Republicans will lose a congressional majority, rendering Trump ineffective and open to impeachment by radical Democrats. And I think, that's where a lot of the thinking right now in the right, in MAGA circles, is going right now. How can we make sure that the midterms go well for us? And I think part of that is that historically speaking, in this country, let's say, a Republican wins the presidency, the midterms pretty much always goes against the current ruling party. So not only are we trying to buck that historical trend, but we're also trying to make sure that, Trump, MAGA, conservative, or even centrist voters who voted for the president feel like their vote was not misplaced come midterms. And I think that, the election fraud angle of this is also a hugely important part of it as well, because we really haven't seen any huge movement on the topic of election fraud and election integrity since the 2024 election. And this is one of the things that the president actually ran on. This is part of his campaign, securing American elections, making sure that they're not loaded up with dead people, illegals, and malign foreign influence. So it's good to see the DOJ really starting to turn the screws on this. Here's Harmeet Dillon. Looks like this is just a video she put out there on social media. We'll go ahead and play this all the way through. Here's what she had to say about this situation. And again, I'm just really happy to see an update on this because I think it's sorely needed, especially, considering the midterms are only about a year away, right? So got to get cracking on this stuff. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and I'm here to share an important update about one of my many important duties here at the DOJ, which is enforcing our federal election laws. Here's some facts and figures for you. In the last 8 months, the DOJ has reached out to all 50 states, asking them to share their voter rolls with us so that we can help them comply with the Help America Vote Act, which requires states to maintain clean voter rolls. 4 states complied voluntarily. We sued North Carolina early on, and they are checking the voter records of 100,000 voters who were improperly enrolled on their voter rolls, and they're going to fix their problem voluntarily. We have an agreement in place almost with another dozen states, and I expect very soon we'll be looking at their voter data and comparing it with our records and helping them clean up those voter rolls. Now we have 15 lawsuits pending against 14 states. That's right, California got sued twice, and we are in litigation with them. They're refusing to provide their records, even though many of these states voluntarily provide their voter rolls to nonprofit groups like ERIC and even other groups. And so we are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of those, and then we're going to get to the rest of the states. So we're engaged with nearly 30 states. Here's what we found so far. We've checked 47.5 million voter records. We've found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls, which is pretty concerning. They're going to be removed with the help of the DOJ. And finally, that there are several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. This is very concerning, and the DOJ is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections. Even one person voting who shouldn't have voted is one too many, because every citizen is entitled to one person, one vote assumption that their vote is being counted equally and only with other American citizens. We will not rest at this DOJ with the leadership of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, until we complete this project and provide confidence to all American voters that the rolls are clean and the elections are free and fair. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, so there it is. You heard it straight from Harmeet Dillon. This is fantastic news. I'm very happy to see that they're starting to move on this. Again, this is one of the things that President Trump ran on, is securing American elections so that we don't have to be worried about fraud anymore. And so that, we can actually trust the outcome of our elections and not be so paranoid about them all the time, right? Every time I see an election happen in this country, it doesn't matter if it's, even down at the municipal level, people are always asking in the comment section of everything about that election, like, was there fraud, right? People mentioning fraud all over the place. Look, there's a reason why that happened. So the Trump administration is very right to start moving on this, and I look forward to bringing you guys any form of update on this that we can. All right, next one here from Daily Caller. Even more on election integrity today. The RNC has hit Maryland with an election integrity lawsuit. Let's take a look and see what this is all about. By the way, this is from Daily Caller. The Republican National Committee sued Maryland election officials on Friday over their alleged failure to maintain voter rolls. Registration in several Maryland counties is impossibly high, with two of the state's biggest counties reporting more registered voters than adult citizens, which we all know is impossible unless laws are being broken, according to the lawsuit. 10 other counties have registration rates that exceed 95% of adult citizens. Again, not impossible, but exceedingly rare, right? Like, come on. Though 2022 U.S. Census Bureau data indicates the state's registration rate is only around 75.6%. So a heck of a disparity there, from 75.6% to 95%. Marylanders deserve to have confidence in their elections and to know that their state is properly maintaining its voter rolls, RNC Chair Joe Gruder said. Honestly, put a 1 in the live chat if you have zero confidence that a single Democrat-led state, or blue state, so to speak, is properly maintaining their voter rolls. Put a 1 in live chat if you think that it is absolutely laughable to suggest that any of those blue states out there are properly maintaining their voter rolls. I mean, honestly, if you guys have watched this show and you've watched me cover stories about some of this data that comes out on elections and some of the dates of birth of the people on these voter rolls, right? It's like, literally, it's in like we've seen them from like 1850. Like, they're claiming that somebody that was born in 1850 is still alive, kicking and voting today, man. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So there it is. The ones are flying in. You guys are right there with me. There's not a single way that a single one of these blue states are properly maintaining their voter rolls. And what the Trump DOJ is doing, and what they need to do, is force them to do so. Again, I'm very happy to see that they're starting to move on this. And the RNC, right, they're moving on this as well with this lawsuit. The State Board of Elections has failed to do its job and remove ineligible or deceased voters from its rolls. Marylanders have a right to accurate voter rolls, which is why the RNC is suing today. Elections officials are not making reasonable efforts to meet requirements of the National Voter Registration Act, the lawsuit alleges. The Maryland State Board of Elections did not immediately respond to a request for comment, and frankly, I can understand exactly why. Why would they want to speak on this? It looks like they're actually getting majorly exposed here for breaking the freaking law. So, of course, if I were them, I wouldn't want to comment on a story about it either. The Office of Legislative Audits of the Maryland General Assembly found in October 2023, 2 years ago, that the State Board of Elections' review of its voter registration data remained inadequate. So it remained inadequate 2 years ago. It's taken up until this point for anything to be done about it. An audit discovered 2,426 potentially deceased individuals. Potentially deceased, as opposed to, actually deceased, right? With active voter registration and 327 individuals with potential duplicate voter registrations, according to the report. Failure to maintain voter lists burdens the right to vote of the individual plaintiffs and all individual members of the RNC and MDGOP who are lawfully registered to vote in Maryland by undermining their confidence in the integrity of the electoral process, discouraging their participation in the democratic process, and instilling in them the fear that their legitimate votes will be nullified or diluted by unlawful ones, the lawsuit states. The Department of Justice also filed a federal lawsuit against Maryland on Tuesday for failing to produce its voter registration lists, which we just talked about that from Harmeet Dillon in the last story. So again, there it is, guys. Very, very happy to see it. Finally, some movement on this. It's been a while since we've had any news on the election integrity front. I still think it's one of the most important things that we could possibly talk about here on the show, which is why it remains the first topic we always hit with the breakdown. So there it is. Next one here comes out of justthenews.com, and here's some great news. On top of the news coming out from the Supreme Court yesterday, the Supreme Court approved Texas's new congressional map, which actually I think is going to end up netting the Republicans 5 seats on the House. And now Indiana House approves the 9-0 congressional map. This is brutal for Democrats. I believe they lost 2 seats because of this redistricting. The Indiana State House on Friday approved a new slate of congressional maps that tilts all 9 congressional district races in favor of the GOP. The map passed in a 57-41 vote, the local Fox affiliate report said. The move sends the bill to the state Senate, where some Republicans have voiced opposition. Of course, this is another problem that we have in the Republican Party. There are still a lot of people in the Republican Party that simply do not want to fight. They're referred to as rhinos, right? Still, I think that there's a lot of transforming of the Republican Party from the soft, do nothing but say everything type folks to people that are really going to start, dying on some hills, so to speak here. The redraw comes as President Donald Trump pushes Republicans in other states to redraw their maps to give Republicans an edge in the 2026 midterms. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court approved a Texas redraw that added as many as 5 GOP-leaning districts. So look, the state House approved this today, right? Meaning that this is really just the beginning of this fight. They are going to get sued over this, right? I want you guys to keep that in mind. You're probably going to be hearing about about a lawsuit against this move right here on this show next week at some point. So brace for that. But I think that, if they're simply removing the racial gerrymandering that the Democrats did to give themselves a couple seats in Indiana, then I think they'll do just fine in court, because basically the whole racial gerrymandering thing has been defeated in the judiciary. So, even though they're going to get sued for this, it's almost a foregone conclusion they're going to get sued for this. I don't think the plaintiffs are going to have a very good time. So there it is, guys, once again from justthenews.com. If you guys are out there watching on a platform that has a thumbs up button, make sure you hit that thing. That will help more eyes and ears make their way over to the show. We're literally covering 54 stories today. You're going to leave this show feeling more informed than you've ever felt before, my friends. So make sure to hit that thumbs up, hit the red pill on Pilled, all that good stuff. Repost the show, share it out, do what you can to help the numbers, guys. Raising Cane out there, 117 gold pills. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Says, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, Pixels. Looking good, guy. Thank you very much, Raising Cane. As always, I really appreciate the gold pill love there and the wonderful comment. Hopefully you guys out there are more than enjoying the show. Andy Joanne out there says, hey, nice haircut. Yes, thank you very much. Shout out to my sister. It's just an awesome little tradition now, between my sister and I, and this started during COVID out of necessity. I used to go to Supercuts or whatever and get my hair cut, but during COVID all those places kind of closed down and there was no way I could get a haircut, so I knew that my sister cuts my brother-in-law's hair all the time, and she does a fantastic job, so she started cutting my hair years ago during COVID, and we just didn't stop, because frankly, she does a better job for free than what I can go, pay for. So thank you for the haircut compliment there. I appreciate it. And shout out to my sister. Sandy, if you're out there, much love to you. You're the best. All right, guys. There it is. Indiana House approves 9-0 congressional map. Democrats lost 2 seats here. Fantastic news. They're going to get sued. I will keep you guys updated on that litigation. I think they're going to be just fine, though, in Indiana. Next one here from the National Pulse. Virginia House Speaker proposes redistricting 10-1 Democrat majority. So the Democrat Party's panicking here over this redistricting effort, which I do not blame them. They're going to lose power with this redistricting effort. So they are trying to pull out all the stops and do everything they possibly can to gerrymander in the other direction. I think the big issue they're going to have, though, is that they're going to try and racially gerrymander, which, again, has recently been defeated in the courts. Racial gerrymandering is no longer seen as legal or permissible in this country, so their options, not great. Let's take a look. Virginia House Speaker Don Scott says he's considering a plan to redraw the state's congressional maps in a way that could give Democrats a significant advantage, potentially shifting the current 6-5 delegation in favor of Republicans to a 10-1 Democrat majority. Speaking at the UVA Center for Politics on Wednesday, December 3rd, Scott outlined the proposal as a response to what he described as bullying by President Donald J. Trump in states like Texas. Quote, he's bullying folks in these states to change the rules, and we have an obligation to stand up and do something different, Scott said. The suggestion comes amidst ongoing efforts by both major political parties to redraw state maps ahead of upcoming elections, including the midterms next year. Scott indicated that such a dramatic shift in the delegation's composition was not out of the realm of possibility under the new maps. However, given that Democrats only enjoyed a slight advantage in statewide elections and Virginia's population distribution, with a bulk of Democrat voters living in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., in the north of the state, Scott's idea of a 10-1 map appears more of an exaggerated threat than a possible reality. Redrawing congressional lines in a manner that gives Democrats such an advantage would likely draw considerable legal challenges, as the districts would likely lack compactness, contiguity, and equal population. So there is that, guys, once again from the National Pulse. And again, they failed to mention here that the gerrymandering the Democrats attempt to do in Virginia will necessarily have a racial aspect to it, which, again, you cannot just district based on race in this country. It's no longer allowed. So, very interesting indeed. I will absolutely keep you guys updated on what's going to happen here in Virginia, but I really see this as just, posturing by the Democrats, panicked posturing by the Democrats to try and figure out, how they can possibly grab the House next year in the midterms. So, there it is. Next one here comes out of Breitbart.com, which the UK government, we just found out, really wanted to shut down. Thank goodness they didn't succeed, because I actually really like Breitbart. But anyways, Nolte out here on Breitbart says, Minnesota Democrats allegedly received tens of thousands in campaign cash from Somali scammers. A continuation of the huge story coming out of Minnesota. This absolutely ginormous fraud story has connections to Tim Walz, has connections to Ilhan Omar. This is involving like upwards of $1 billion in taxpayer funds stolen, and now we find out that there actually might be tens of thousands of dollars from this in campaign cash from these Somali scammers given to these Democrats' campaigns. Guys, this is starting to become a really interesting and, dare I say, exciting story. I think we may actually see some indictments come down over this. It's growing fast, guys. It's growing faster than they can actually react to it, right? So here we go. Several high-profile Minnesota Democrats allegedly received thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from those behind what is the largest welfare scam in history. Here's one look at a classic way government corruption operates, and I love the way Nolte writes, by the way. He's great. Politicians use legislation to funnel our tax dollars to scammers. Totally true. And the Attorney General agrees to look the other way. In exchange, the scammer ensures your re-election with campaign contributions, votes from the community, and other forms of seedy behavior that are hard to identify, stuff like paying people to vote for you, lucrative contracts funneled to your relatives, book sales, land deals, and promises of payoffs after you leave public office and are no longer in the media spotlight. And the only person ripped off is the American taxpayer. So is that what happened in Minnesota? You be the judge. And then they go on to quote, Minnesota Democratic lawmakers, including the Attorney General, the person in the state responsible for enforcing the law, were handed over $53,000 in campaign contributions by fraudsters who ripped off taxpayer cash meant to feed children, reports the New York Post. It's important. This is coming from the New York Post. The New York Post is not the gateway pundit, right? The New York Post is not referred to as right-wing, necessarily. With the Hunter Biden stuff, right, maybe some of the extreme far left started seeing the New York Post as right-wing, but it's not. It's actually, it doesn't really have an identifiable bent. It really depends on what author or what journalist, so to speak, wrote the article you're currently reading on New York Post. It really can go either way. So I just think that's an important distinction here. This is from the New York Post. This is not from like the Gateway Pundit or some publication that's been criticized for being too right wing or too tabloidy or whatever. No, this is coming from the New York Post. And again, what's really extreme here is that we were talking about the Attorney General of Minnesota, who is responsible for ensuring that the law is enforced in the state of Minnesota, handed over $53,000 in campaign contributions by these fraudsters who ripped off taxpayer money. That's unlawful. How can we have an Attorney General of a state being involved in things that are unlawful? If you have an Attorney General involved in things that are unlawful, then how can you possibly expect the law to actually be followed in your state? Minnesota's a lawless state, is what I'm saying here. Completely lawless. AG Keith Ellison, his councilman's son, Mayor Jacob Frey, Representative Ilhan Omar, and others received cash from the scammers who siphoned off some $250 million, largely through nonprofit Feeding Our Future. But don't worry, guys. These politicians will claim that they had no idea where this money was coming from, right? They'll try to get out of this with that, like, well, we didn't know where the money was coming from. How are we supposed to know this was coming from fraud, right? They're going to play stupid. Ellison's campaign took in $10,000 from the businessmen. Gandhi Mohammed made a maximum $2,500 donation to Ellison's re-election campaign. He was indicted on federal bribery and fraud charges last year, adds the report, but that's not all. Ellison would receive 3 more maxed out $2,500 donations from people associated with Feeding Our Future. Minnesota's own U.S. House Representative Ilhan Omar even introduced the bill that made much of the largest welfare scam in history possible. Sounds to me like the Department of Justice should maybe, dig into her communications around the time that legislation was being put together. I don't know, that's where I'd look, frankly. A cool $3,000 went to Ellison's city councilman's son, Jeremiah Ellison. Democrat Mayor Jacob Frey scored $9,000. Mind you, this is the guy that just got caught on camera trying to choke down this pile of Somali bean slop, and clearly he's not enjoying it. He's trying not to he's trying not to grimace with this Somali guy sitting next to him. One of the most cringy things I've ever seen in my life. Like, if you're a politician, you're going to that length to try and I don't know, cuck out to a demographic, then I don't know, man. That's just where's the dignity in that, man? It's like there's zero dignity at all. Anyways, Democrat Minnesota State Senator Omar Fateh took in $11,000. We're only at the beginning of this scandal, and already 75 people have been indicted, and more than half of them have pleaded guilty. But here's the thing, the only thing that matters. Nothing will change in Minnesota, Nolte says. Nothing. Decades of Democrat corruption and migration from the third world have forever twisted the state into a Democrat-run stronghold that will continue to elect Democrats determined to destroy the state as long as it means they get rich and hold on to power. Governor Tim Walz, look what he does here. Nolte, D-retard. Oh. That was cathartic. Will win his re-election campaign because, like California, Colorado, Washington, New York, and Illinois, Minnesota is doomed. There are a lot of good people in Minnesota. Unfortunately, there are not enough of them, Nolte says. Now, the end of this article, I think, is very negative. And he might not actually be right. He might not actually be right. If the mass deportation operation, which just made its way to Minnesota, by the way, is successful, it may end up being a lot easier to elect Republicans in the area that will start to turn things around. And also, if you really think about it, with the massive nature of this fraud scandal here and how many people are connected to it, gee, I wonder how many of those politicians are in Minnesota who are responsible for the way Minnesota's going right now are going to get wrapped up in this and possibly end up indicted. Usually, when you end up getting indicted, and then convicted, of course, you're not going to stay in politics. Things are going to change, right? I don't know. Maybe it's hopium on my part. I'm not sure. But I think that it's entirely within the realm of possibility that Minnesota flips red in the future. I think that the same can be said, frankly, for any blue state out there. And here's why. Here's why I'm saying this. I'll switch to my other... Oops, I accidentally did the shades there. My bad, guys. I'll switch to my full screen here, just me, just to talk to you guys about this, okay? Look at how the Overton window has shifted in the past 10 years, okay? 10 years. Do you think for a moment, and put a 1 in the live chat out there if you disagree with me, put a 2 if you don't, okay? And this is like a rhetorical question, okay? Do you think for a moment that any of what's going on right now in the second Trump administration, the second term, do you think for a moment that any of what's going on right now with this administration would have been possible 10, 15 years ago? I'll wait. Put a 1 in live chat if you think 10, 15 years ago totally would not have happened. Impossible. The Overton window was way too far to the left back then. Right? But now, put a 2 in the live chat if you disagree. Do you disagree? Do you think that, 10, 15 years ago, this stuff could have been brought into the mainstream and it would have been accepted? I honestly don't think so. So that's why I'm saying don't have zero hope for places like Minnesota. Because if we've shifted the Overton window this far to the right in a matter of 10, 15 years, imagine where we're at another 5 or 10 years from now. Right? So just keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. Not all is lost for places like Minnesota, for places like California, for places like Michigan, Vermont, so on and so forth. Hearts and minds can be changed. The Overton window shifts. The culture changes. So Keep it in mind, guys. Just a little bit of positivity. Pushing it out there a little bit. Take it if you want it. Throw it in the trash can if you don't like it. Next one here from JoeHoff.com. Democrat Colorado governor affirms he will not move Tina Peters to federal custody. President Trump, the Trump administration is trying to do what they can for Tina Peters. What's really, really, really sad about her situation, though, is that her charges were at the state level. President Trump cannot step in and pardon her because she didn't face any federal charges. So Colorado's governor will not allow Tina Peters to be moved from Colorado state to federal custody per a request from the Trump administration. Tina Peters was sentenced to prison in Colorado for doing her job after the 2020 election. And they're not mincing words there, by the way. There was a law that required certain election records to be preserved for a set period of time. She preserved them, and that's why she got arrested, okay? Because the election officials, shall we say, of that state wanted that stuff deleted. Why do they want it deleted? My suspicion, frankly, is that there was evidence of election fraud. They wanted it gone. They wanted it covered up. She refused to help them with this, and she attempted to preserve this information, and that's why she's in prison today. Obviously, what happened to Tina Peters is one of the most egregious examples of a miscarriage of justice that we could possibly come up with. It was Peters in state and federal duty to maintain accurate records. This is what she did, and the corrupt actors in the state of Colorado imprisoned her for it. A local Colorado publication reported this week. The office of Colorado Governor Jared Polis affirmed this week a decision by state prison officials not to fulfill a request by the Trump administration to transfer custody of Tina Peters from the state to federal authorities. Peters, the former Republican Mesa County clerk, is serving a 9-year prison sentence for her role in the scheme to breach the security of her own election equipment. President Donald Trump has repeatedly demanded that she be released. The director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons sent a letter to the Colorado Department of Corrections last month requesting that the state initiate the transfer of Peters to the Bureau. Requests to transfer inmates from the Colorado Department of Corrections emanate from the state and not from other entities. The state has not made any requests to transfer this inmate, Shelby Weeman, a Polis spokesperson, said in a text to Newsline. The Colorado Newsline makes this assertion about Peters that will take your breath away. Quote, "She was the linchpin in an effort to find evidence that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. There is no credible evidence that the election results were compromised." Well, actually, there was credible evidence. She was trying to secure it. The officials wanted it deleted. Again, that's why she's in prison. Clearly, there are no professional auditors on the staff at this small publication because across the country, the results of the 2020 election were so broken that the results could never be certified by a professional, independent, and objective auditor. The paper goes on. Peters has appealed her conviction in state court, and she is pursuing a habeas corpus petition in the U.S. District Court of Colorado, where she argues she should be released on bond. On Sunday, she asked the court for an emergency ruling, saying her 97-year-old mother is in intensive care in Virginia, and she wants to travel there to visit. Peters' lawyer, Florida-based Peter Tickton, calls Peters a political prisoner. During a recent appearance on Steve Bannon's podcast, he suggested presidents actually do have the power to pardon people who have been convicted of state crimes, and that he intends to pursue such a claim in Peters' case up to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. Interesting. He also said he thinks the Trump administration should use the U.S. military to free Peters from the Colorado prison by force. Wouldn't that be an interesting thing to watch happen? Not only should Peters never have been thrown in prison, she's been abused since being put in prison. Recently, we reported that Peters was strip-searched and put into solitary for reporting on a GED teacher who was making salacious statements about Peters to other inmates. In another article, we reported on how Tina was subject to near-freezing temperatures in her cell, which was causing her to get really sick. Americans want to see Tina Peters released from prison and the real criminals from the 2020 election placed there in her place. Let's pray that day comes soon. And yeah, I think that is probably the biggest or second biggest criticism of the Trump administration that I have seen. I have seen a lot of people out there angry with Pam Bondi because we're not seeing a massive list of deep staters arrested yet. Many people are giving up on the idea of justice, which is very sad. I think that that's something the Trump administration should probably start paying attention to. It's not that this movement wants retribution. It's not that we want revenge. It's not about that at all. It's about accountability. We want government gangsters, as Kash Patel referred to them, put in prison because they made the political process in this country toxic. They divided our country on a bunch of nonsense and lies in the mainstream media. They tried to run a coup on a duly elected president of the United States because they didn't like the outcome of the election that we, the American people, chose. These are just a small number of things that we know that these criminals have done. And yet we don't see any arrests yet. We don't see any justice yet. Okay, we saw, Comey indicted on lying to Congress charges, right? We saw Letitia James indicted on, fraud accusations, which we have a story on that today, by the way. You're not going to like it. But look, that's nothing compared to, look at the whole situation. Just one situation that you could get, probably tens of indictments out of. The whole Russia hoax. We now know that Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration and John Brennan and others within the Obama administration's intelligence community literally just made a bunch of crap up about Donald Trump, falsely accusing him of being connected to Russia in some treasonous way. They tried to impeach him over this. They spied on his campaign. They spied on several Republican members of Congress and several Republican senators. Illegally. They did this all illegally. They lied to a FISA court to keep the train rolling. Why is nobody in prison? It's so elementary. So I understand, completely understand people's frustration with Bondi, because it's dude, you should have had these indictments drawn up day freaking one. Day freaking one. And yet, people like Tina Peters are still in prison, not for breaking the law, but for literally trying to follow it in the midst of a bunch of psychotic criminals who put her in prison for following the law, for trying to stop them from deleting information that the law says you cannot delete. So, miscarriage of justice still very unfortunately happening in this country, and there needs to be a reckoning. There needs to be a reckoning. Timothy Nortani out there says, we don't have the judges, and you're 1,000% right. You're 1,000% right, and that's probably the reason why we haven't seen so many indictments by now. Because the judiciary branch is unfortunately extremely corrupt, extremely biased. It's hard. How do you get around that? The only way to get around that is to only indict these people in red states. Districts that are in red states. But you kind of can't if you can't prove that a certain aspect of the crime at least happened in that jurisdiction, right? So it's tough. It's hard. And then you have, we have a story about on Letitia James, actually. Sometimes a grand jury just refuses to indict. So that's why, it's I understand why people are frustrated with Pam Bondi, but what people need to understand is it's not all Pam Bondi's fault. It's not all up to her alone. There's a lot of complications with all this stuff, guys. Really, a lot of complications. Anyways, most of that rant had nothing to do with Tina Peters. Had everything to do with justice, though. And this is a miscarriage of justice. And the fact that the real criminals aren't in prison, but Tina Peters is a perfect example of a miscarriage of justice. Justice is broken in the United States. Broken. Next one here from the Gateway Pundit. Trump-appointed judge unseals Epstein grand jury records in South Florida. Probably the most headline-generating story of the day. There's a couple of them out there, frankly. It's a busy news day today, guys, so maybe I shouldn't have said that. There's a lot of big stories out there today. But this is an absolute doozy. This is like a Moab of a story today, guys. And again, this is happening because of the legislation that President Trump signed. I believe this is going to backfire on the Democrats, so I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how that happens. But here we go. A federal judge on Friday unsealed Jeffrey Epstein grand jury records in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. U.S. District Judge Rodney Smith, a Trump appointee, said the law passed by Congress and signed by President Trump overrides grand jury secrecy. The act applies to unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials that relate to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Consequently, the later enacted in the specific language of the act trumps Rule 6's prohibition on disclosure. Accordingly, it is ordered that the United States expedited motion to unseal grand jury transcripts and modify protective order DE6 is granted, the judge wrote. So, last month, President Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law to release all files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. As the Gateway Pundit reported, the House overwhelmingly voted for the bill, with only one Republican defector, Representative Clay Higgins, voting against the bill, citing privacy concerns for victims of Epstein, which I did, think was at least a fair concern. The Senate later approved the bill by unanimous consent. The president called on Congress to pass the bill, stating we have nothing to hide and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. Of course, they share his entire Truth Social post on the whole Epstein situation. I think we read that back, the day that he put that out there. So, guys, it's really interesting. So far, the story just has the fact that the judge has unsealed, through an order, the Epstein grand jury records. I'm guessing next week, while we're doing the breakdown, we'll have some new information, maybe from those grand jury transcripts, to go over. I'm sure, if there is anything new in this, new release here of the grand jury transcripts, we're going to be hearing a whole lot about it on a lot of different articles out there. So I look forward to new information becoming available from this. But guys, we do have another Epstein release here. This time, it kind of sounds like it's going to be stuff that we haven't heard about before, because grand jury records, they're usually sealed. And in fact, I think they're always sealed from the moment they exist up until a judge decides they should be unsealed. So I'd be surprised if this stuff isn't new, unless it's like duplicate knowledge that was already publicly reported years ago or something like that. That's also a possibility, but there it is, guys. Once again, from the Gateway Pundit. Exciting stuff. I look forward to learning more on the whole Epstein situation. No Thanks Joe with a can says, hey, Brother Pixels, happy Friday. People have to understand these people have been entrenching themselves into our entire country, not just government, since roughly 1913. To think that we're going to exit them all the snap of a finger is quite naive. We have plenty of work, and I think they probably meant to say to do. I think that you're hitting the head right on the nail, No Thanks Joe. I really think that you've made a fantastic point there. None of what's going on right now is easy. None of the goals of the Trump administration are easy, right? This stuff is like pulling teeth most of the time. To get anything to move in Washington is like pulling freaking teeth, man. So I think that you're totally correct. And I think, yeah, they have been entrenching themselves into our government since about 1913. So, I mean, if you think about how long that's literally more than 100 years. So yeah, we've been working on draining the swamp now for a little over 10 years. I'd say that compared to 100 years of swamp flooding, and now we've got 10 years of swamp draining, I'd say that we're actually, if you look at it through that lens, I'd say we're doing pretty darn well. So there is that. Northern Pike LZ out there. What's going on, man? Long time no see. Great to see you out there. Says, nice. F YouTube just notified me Lil Rush was on live. Looking good, Pixels. It is fantastic to see you out there, my friend. Glad to see that you found the stream. Make sure to hit that thumbs up over there. We're going to be on YouTube until the halfway mark of the show. After that, we'll be flipping over to pilled.net for the rest of the show, so keep that in mind. But yeah, if you guys are enjoying over there on YouTube, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you're subscribed and you got the bell and all that stuff going on. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And it's like my first day back on YouTube in many, many, many years. Never thought it would happen. No thanks, Joe, with the cookie out there says, in my opinion, the reason things are happening in what seems to be slow motion is because we need more people to wake up more. Our people don't want to hear they have to work. They just want others to do everything. Yeah, no, I think that's another really good point. No thanks, Joe. I think that, culturally, things have to move in this country before they can move politically. And I think, the Overton window has to move even more before we can start really doing what we need to do to clean this country up and to start turning this thing around. I think you're right. I think that, a very big part of it is optics. A very big part of it is a public acceptance of this stuff. And if you do go too quickly, you can scare people, and you can concern people, and you can turn people against you pretty easily if you jump into things a little bit too quickly, or maybe in a little bit too not egregious, but a little bit too with too much gusto, I guess you could say. So, I think that you're absolutely right, and you've got some really good instincts there. No thanks, Joe. Really good instincts indeed. Great comments there, and once again, thank you very much for the cookie. I really appreciate the support thus far, guys. We're at 5% to the goal for the day. Sip of water here. My lips are a little dry. I don't know what's going on there, but I guess it is winter time, so I should not be all that surprised at that. But anyways, there it is, guys, from the Gateway Pundit again. Trump-appointed judge has unsealed Epstein grand jury records in South Florida. I look forward to learning whatever it is comes out due to that. Next one here from the Gateway Pundit. Here's kind of a head-scratcher of a story. Things that make you go, Family of late Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre is asking, where did her multi-million-dollar fortune go? Yeah, it's kind of one of those stories that makes your hair stand up, right? Virginia's tragedy is extending beyond her death, unfortunately. I think it's very sad that she's passed away. Very, very sad. Virginia Roberts Giuffre led a tragic life. From her early years as a Jeffrey Epstein sex slave, served for the super rich and powerful, up until her dramatic last days before she allegedly took her own life. After her death, she still had her final say with her bombshell memoir that helped strip her alleged royal abuser of all of his titles and privileges. As the most prominent survivor of Epstein's sex trafficking ring, Giuffre fought and obtained the trifecta, financial settlements from Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and former Prince Andrew. But where's the money? The Telegraph reported Virginia Giuffre's family have raised questions over a significant amount of missing money in the ongoing row over what is believed to be her multi-million-dollar estate. Giuffre reportedly got around $22 million in victim compensation funds and civil lawsuit settlements, including an estimated $12 million lawsuit settlement from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, previously known as Prince Andrew, not any longer though, thanks in part to Giuffre and her brave actions. However, court documents filed in the legal battle over her estate in Australia on Friday value it at just 472,000 Australian dollars, a legal threshold that dictates how assets in Australia are divided when there is no will. It may increase when more assets are discovered. Giuffre's family is deeply concerned that millions of dollars could be missing. They're fighting to stop her husband, Robert Giuffre, who filed for divorce 2 months before she died, from receiving the money. Relatives and friends say that she did not want her husband to benefit and changed her will, accusing him of domestic abuse. Hopefully the court will order a full forensic audit of her estate, the source said, adding that if it is found that Mr. Giuffre knew where the missing fortune is, he will certainly have some explaining to do, the source said. So there is that, guys, once again from thegate.com. Really sad. I mean, can you imagine, being a family member of Giuffre and then running into this situation, and you've just lost a family member to a really horrible situation, And now, now you have to start asking questions about missing money, and there's family drama with Giuffre's ex-husband mixed into this whole thing and stuff. I mean, could you imagine being a family member of Giuffre and what that must feel like right now? Like, I'm sure they would just love this whole situation to be over, and yet it just keeps popping up. So it's just awful, man, and it's awful what happened to Giuffre. I think the circumstances of her death are very odd, and I hope that it's looked into in the future. Maybe they're already looking into it. I don't know, but it was really, really weird to see her get into that accident, and then they claimed that she had killed herself. I don't think that she ever would have done that. In fact, I think that she put out there very intently a message that she wouldn't have killed herself. So, yeah. Shockingly sad story here, and I hope that at some point her family can find both answers, and maybe through those answers, peace. Next one here from thenationalpulse.com. Grand jury refuses to reindict Letitia James in mortgage fraud case. If there was ever a story that confirms that, two-tier justice in the United States of America is alive and well, despite the election results of 2024, this is it. So a federal grand jury rejected the U.S. Department of Justice's attempt to reindict New York Attorney General Letitia James after a judge dismissed the previous mortgage fraud prosecution over a technicality pertaining to the appointment of now former interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. So remember, guys, it wasn't that the judge did not believe Letitia James to be culpable for the accusation. It was on a technicality pertaining to the appointment of former U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Prosecutors had returned to the grand jury following Halligan's disqualification, seeking a new indictment. James was initially indicted in early October on charges of bank fraud and making false statements related to a 2020 home purchase in Norfolk, Virginia. Prosecutors alleged that James rented out the property after signing a document agreeing to use it as a personal residence, which allowed her to secure favorable loan terms. James has denied the allegations, calling them a politically motivated attack. In response to the grand jury's decision, James stated, "It is time for this unchecked weaponization of our justice system to stop." Her attorney, Abe Lowell, and I laugh because she was literally involved in the weaponization of the justice system against Donald Trump. And so it's hilarious, it's comical when I hear someone like Letitia James complain about what they call weaponization of the justice system. Such nonsense, man. Such nonsense. Like, does she really think that anyone's going to take her seriously when she says something like that, right? It's May says, you have a great stream. We all know it's a shit show. Much love to you, It's May. Good to see you out there as always. Yeah, Daily Insanity says that's rich. 1,000%. Extremely rich for James to say something like that. Her attorney, Abe Lowell, who has represented a number of Democrat clients, including Hunter Biden, added if they continue undeterred by a court ruling and a grand jury's rejection of the charges, it will be a shocking assault on the rule of law and a devastating blow to the integrity of our justice system. Again, very rich, coming from someone like Abe Lowell, who, honestly, it sounds like the guy exclusively represents far-left lunatics. What an interesting career choice, by the way. I want to be a lawyer. Who do you want to represent? Every single communist in the United States. Like, I just don't get it, man. Why do you want to represent those dirtbags? It's like someone, I want to be a lawyer. Who do you want to represent? Murderers? Drug dealers? Rapists? That's who I'd like to try and help out. What kind of a person does that? Well, I guess people like Abe Lowell and Letitia James. Anyways, getting off on a tangent there. The initial case was dismissed last month by U.S. District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry, who ruled that Lindsay Halligan's appointment as a U.S. attorney was improper. At the time, Halligan was overseeing the prosecutions of both James and former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Comey. Despite the dismissal, prosecutors are reportedly planning to seek another indictment. So there's that from the National Pulse. Look, I think, obviously, in my opinion, the grand jury made the wrong decision here. I think they came to the wrong decision because they were politically biased. But I'm also, I have to say, I'm interested to see what prosecutors, what the DOJ are looking to do next, because it says they are planning to seek another indictment of Letitia James. So, are they going to impanel another grand jury and try again? Or are they going to try different charges? Like, what's the angle here? I look forward to hearing more on what the DOJ plans to do here. Letitia James, though, it would seem, is not fully out of the weeds. But I'm sure she's breathing a little sigh of relief today with this story. But again, that sigh of relief may be unwarranted. No thanks, Joe out there with a cookie says the midterms are going to be hugely important and we have to vote. DJT's been working on this for years, and even though we want things to happen here yesterday, we need to align completely with our allies. This is a team effort, as you can see with his travels. Patience, please. I think, again, no thanks, Joe. You're hitting the nail right on the head, my friend. That's what I have been trying to kind of tell people. We're only a year into this administration, right? That's a quarter of the way through. And we're actually not quite a year yet, right? But we're only about a year in. He's focusing very heavily on foreign policy, ending wars, diplomacy, ending DEI, right? He did a great job with ending DEI. What else? Did he really focus on in the first year here? Oh, darn it. I just had it in my head, and then I made another comment, and it went gone. The mass deportation operation, that's going fantastic. By the way, we have some updates on that today, some numbers. It's exciting, guys. It's exciting. We're about 10% of the way through the 20 million or so illegal immigrants in the country. So we're making some freaking progress, guys. It's not perfect, but it's big. Big progress. So look, I think, what I've been really trying to put out there is patience. Patience and the benefit of the doubt for officials in the Trump administration. Give them patience. I think that we all ought to understand that President Trump, by now, we all ought to understand that his heart's obviously in the right place. He obviously wants the right things, and he's fighting for the right things. So I don't know, I think that I totally agree with you. No thanks, Joe. We should give them a little grace. We should give them some time. We have no idea, how complicated all this stuff is and how difficult it is to get anything to move in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a place that's just covered in molasses, right, so to speak. Nothing moves in D.C. without immense pressure behind it. So yeah, I think that we should give them grace, we should give them some patience, and we should be actually proud and happy of what they've been able to accomplish thus far, because so far, progress is being made on many fronts, guys. How many wars have we ended, right? DEI is pretty much gone in this country. Free speech restored. The mass deportation, full freaking swing, dude. That thing's spinning at 1,000 RPM. There's so many things to be happy about. Hold on to those things and know that the things that have not yet been visited, or maybe not visited, the things that have not yet been touched upon by the Trump administration, know that there is a time for that. I'm sure they've already got it planned out. So, I think you're totally right, man. Hangover Gang out there with an extremely generous fleet says, Happy Friday, Pixels and fam. Thank you very much, Hangover Gang, for the unbelievably generous fleet. There's ship number 1 sailing on by, with ship number 2 making its way to the Foxhole dock right behind it. Once again, Hangover Gang, thank you so much for the very generous fleet there. That brings us to 38% to the goal of the day. Fantastic. And as always, really, really great to see you out there. All right, guys, so there it is. There's my little screed on Letitia James. I'm sure the DOJ has some tricks up their sleeve. Next one here from Daily Caller. Former Blue City staffer admits embezzling hundreds of thousands in public funds. So some good old public corruption to talk about, guys. One of my favorite topics. All right, so here we go from dailycaller.com. Former San Francisco city official Stanley Ellicott pleaded guilty Thursday to embezzling more than $600,000 in city funds and participating in another former city employee's fraud scheme, according to multiple local outlets. The former assistant director of finance and technology for the Workers' Compensation Division of the city's Department of Human Resources was first hit with multiple felony charges in January for his alleged role in a scheme to misappropriate grant funds awarded through the city's Community Challenge Grant Program. By March, Ellicott was arrested on 62 felony charges, involving the theft of more than $627,000 directly from his own department. Lord almighty, man. Hold on, guys. Sip of water while we do the reports from Clown World animation. In the first round of charges from January, officials accused Ellicott of aiding and abetting former Community Challenge Grant Director Lanita Henriquez in the misappropriation of public money for her own use and the use of others. Henriquez allegedly stole money from the city through contracts steered to her ex-boyfriend, former Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom's mayoral staffer Rudolph Dwayne Jones. Notably, Newsom's former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, was arrested on November 12th and charged with conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud, among other crimes. Kind of a big deal, if you ask me. During that period, Jones allegedly paid kickbacks to Ellicott, who then passed them to Henriquez. Honestly, one comment I want to make on this is, like, if you were Newsom or one of these other people, like, closely connected to others, like, arrested for this stuff, I wonder how nervous you'd start getting, right? Because, like, there's not a universe in which, like Newsom wasn't, also dipping his hand in the cookie jar here, right? That's just my assumption. Maybe that's unfair to make that assumption, but I'm just saying, these are some people that are awfully close to Gavin Newsom. I wonder how nervous he's getting, especially since he's been talking about maybe running for president in 2028. I think that's actually kind of funny. I don't think he'd really stand a chance. But anyways, just think that's an interesting little thought there that I wanted to let out there. I didn't want it to just live in here and not make it to the microphone. Anyways, while the official or initial complaint accused Ellicott of felony receipt of stolen property, there had been no evidence of his alleged criminal activity at the time related to his work in San Francisco as DHR. Officials said Henriquez allegedly entered into contracts on behalf of the city and county of San Francisco with entities controlled by Jones controlling more than $1.4 million. During that time, Ellicott was employed by the city, and Jones's company, RDJ Enterprises, allegedly paid him a total of $269,876.24. I love when they include the cents here, as if that matters in the grand scheme of things. We're talking about $269,000. 24 cents, guys. Big deal. Anyways, I'm just joking, of course. But that is a lot of money. That's more than $250,000. The payments were then allegedly passed back to Henriquez through Venmo and PayPal, totaling $65,650.26. If you're using Venmo and PayPal to attempt to launder money, which is what this kind of sounds like, then you're probably a moron. Just saying. Oh, man. What happened to the car wash or something? Anyone ever watch Breaking Bad? Come on now. Henriquez and Jones were both hit with a 59-count complaint filed in August 2023. They were charged with misappropriation of government funds, multiple counts of bribery, and numerous counts of financial conflicts of interest, according to officials. According to the San Francisco DA's office, Ellicott's second set of charges in March accused him of stealing $627,118.86 over a 4.5-year period from May 2019 to January 2024. The complaint alleges 1 count of grand theft, 1 count of misappropriation of public money, 10 counts of insurance fraud, and 50 counts of money laundering. At the time of the alleged crimes, Ellicott was responsible for overseeing the financial integrity of the Workers' Compensation Division as an assistant director. Imagine being that crooked and being in charge of financial integrity, right? I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. You really can't. We'll do another Clown World because really, I mean, this story is... it's a big one. He allegedly enlisted a friend to register a fake business in Illinois called IAG Services and open a bank account for the company, giving Ellicott full control. Through the fake business, Ellicott then allegedly registered it as a vendor in the workers' compensation system, and over time billed more than 600 city workers' compensation claims for auditing services. Following Ellicott's plea, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins told the Chronicle that the former assistant director's conviction demonstrates the office's ongoing commitment to rooting out public corruption. San Franciscans have a right to expect that city employees will act with integrity while performing their public duties and not seek to enrich themselves at the public's expense, Jenkins told the outlet. As if it's not an open secret that more than half of California's politicians do exactly that. Cough, cough. I mean, come on. Sometimes you just gotta roll your eyes at this stuff, fam. Yeah, California is real serious about cracking down on corruption. That's why this happened in the first place, right? Oh, it's just funny, guys. This conviction comes almost 2 years after charges were initially filed and demonstrates my office's ongoing commitment to rooting out public corruption. With Ellicott pleading guilty, he faces 3 years in state prison and is scheduled to return to court on January 2nd, 2026 for sentencing, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. All right, so there's that. Very interesting story indeed. Can't say that I'm surprised at all that this came out of San Francisco. If there are any other indictments coming out over this, I will certainly let you guys know. However, it does appear that this is towards the end of this grand story rather than the beginning. So there it is. All right, guys. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. More massive corruption to talk about, this time in Minnesota, again, from the Gateway Pundit. Minnesota Democrats, including Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison, allegedly pocketed tens of thousands from massive Somali welfare fraud scheme. We already touched on this before. I think we had another story from a different publication where they were talking about this. If I'm not... Yeah, we did. That was a story from Nolte on Breitbart. So, you know what? And maybe just to save time, since we have like 54 stories today, we'll go ahead and skip over this. If you guys prefer the Gateway Pundit to Breitbart, I'm sure some of you guys out there do. Maybe some of you guys out there prefer the opposite. Just know that these are two of the same story, basically. One of them's from Breitbart. One of them is from the Gateway Pundit. Choose whatever of those links that you guys would like. And by the way, every single link to every single story, guys, if any of you out there missed the beginning of the show, you can find all of it at seasonpixels.wordpress.com. Every single time I do one of these episodes, I make sure that every single one of these tabs open in front of me here are accessible for you guys through that WordPress document. And really all it is just a list of links to the stories. So that's a resource that's out there for all of you guys in case you want to follow along. Or, grab some of these stories to send to your friends and family or something like that. Totally up to you how you guys use that. So there you go. So we'll skip over this one because we already kind of talked about this from Breitbart. That story from Nolte. A wonderfully written story, by the way. I love the way that guy writes. But yeah. Next one here comes from also the Gateway Pundit. FBI raids home of high-ranking DEA official under Obama and charges him with conspiring to launder millions of dollars for Mexican drug cartel. A lot of things just happened up here, guys, but one of those things was that, isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy that under Obama, a high-ranking DEA official, that's the Drug Enforcement Agency, was in bed with the Mexican drug cartel? Is that surprising to any of you guys out there? I know it's infuriating and egregious and horrifying to think about, but is it really surprising to any of you out there? Put a 1 in live chat if you're not surprised that a high-ranking DEA official under Obama was just charged with conspiring to launder millions for the drug cartel. Anyway, the FBI on Friday morning raided the home of a high-ranking DEA official under Barack Obama and charged him for conspiring to launder millions of dollars for a Mexican drug cartel. The feds charged former DEA Deputy Chief of the Office of Financial Operations Paul Campo and friend Robert Sensi for conspiring to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. Paul Campo and Robert Sensi were charged with narco-terrorism, terrorism, narcotics distribution, and money laundering charges. Campo and Sensi were arrested on Thursday afternoon in New York, according to the DOJ. Campo and Sensi agreed to launder $12 million and participate in narcotics trafficking for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, aka Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generacion, or CJNG. Per the Department of Justice, here's what the DOJ said. Paul Campo worked for the DEA for approximately 25 years, first as a special agent in New York and eventually rising to become a high-level DEA official, specifically the Deputy Chief of the Office of Financial Operations. Campo retired from DEA in or about January 2016. In late 2024, Robert Sensi began meeting with a confidential source working at the Directorate of Law Enforcement, who was posing as a member of CJNG. Sensi told CS1 that he had a friend who used to be in charge of DEA's financial operations who could assist CJNG by laundering narcotics proceeds and providing CS1 with sensitive DEA information about sources and investigations. Wow, these guys are totally screwed, man. Totally screwed. My goodness. After these initial meetings, Campo and Sensi together met with CS1 on several occasions. During these conversations, Campo and Sensi agreed to launder money for CS1 by, among other things, converting cash into crypto and making investments in real estate. Campo and Sensi further advised CS1 about fentanyl production and explored procuring commercial drones and military-grade weapons and equipment for CJNG, including AR-15 semi-automatic rifles, M4 carbines, M16 rifles, grenade launchers, and rocket-propelled grenades. As part of these discussions, Campo and Sensi often boasted about and relied heavily on Campo's prior federal law enforcement experience and expertise regarding financial investigations and drug cartels. Regarding the drones, in one meeting, CS1 explained to Campo, what we do with the drones, we put explosives and we just send it over there, boom. And in another conversation, CS1 asked Sensi how much C4 explosive the drones could carry, to which Sensi responded in sum and substance, approximately 6 kilograms, which is enough to blow up the whole I don't want to say. As part of the scheme, Campo and Sensi agreed to launder approximately $12 million of CJNG narcotics proceeds, laundered approximately $750,000 by converting cash into cryptocurrency, and provided a payment for approximately 220 kilograms of cocaine on the understanding that the payment would trigger the distribution and sale of the narcotics worth approximately $5 million, for which Campo and Sensi would receive directly a portion of the narcotics proceeds as profit and receive a further commission upon the laundering of the balance of the narcotics proceeds. As alleged, Paul Campo and Robert Sensi conspired to assist CJNG, one of the most notorious Mexican cartels that is responsible for countless deaths through violence and drug trafficking in the United States and Mexico, said U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton. As part of that support, the defendants laundered hundreds of thousands of dollars they believed to be CJNG drug proceeds, agreed to launder millions more, and even agreed to use their financial expertise to facilitate cocaine trafficking right here in New York City, Clayton said. By participating in this scheme, Campo betrayed the mission he was entrusted with pursuing for his 25-year career with the DEA. CJNG is a violent and corrupting criminal enterprise that New Yorkers want broken. I commend the extraordinary efforts of the DEA in aggressively pursuing CJNG and those who support their deadly and corrupt efforts, no matter who they may be, Clayton said. And yeah, no matter who they may be, including folk within the DEA itself. This is just freaking wild, guys. Absolutely wild. This is the type of stuff you see in freaking movies, except this is real, guys. During the Obama administration, sounds like 2 high-ranking DEA officials or 2 high-ranking law enforcement officials were literally conspiring with the CJNG, the Cartel Jalisco New Generation, assisting them with drug trafficking and money laundering. You know what I'd like to know? Who else in the Obama administration, if you even want to call it an administration anymore, sounds to me more like it was a massive crime spree, but who else in the Obama administration knew about this? That's what I'd like to know. That's the burning freaking question right there. Who else knew? Where did they know it? Right? What about the Mexican officials, by the way? It's long been said that the reason the cartels are having such a good time in Mexico is because they basically have a partnership with the government of Mexico, whereas the government of Mexico says, no, we promise we're doing our very best to stop them. What a load of crap that is, by the way. So I want to know that too. Who in the Obama administration knew and when did they know it? And then I ask the same question about the Mexican government. Who in the Mexican government knew about this and when did they know it? All right, moving on to the next one, guys. From thegatewaypundit.com, the seditious six face new legal challenges. Massive money laundering allegations emerge. Yes, my friends. Yes, indeed. Very, very, very interesting update to this story. Recently, 6 lawmakers caused an uproar and prepared a video that implied that soldiers should not follow orders, which is almost certainly against the law, by the way. Again, we've already reviewed that law several times on the show, once yesterday, actually. They carefully put a spin on the Uniform Code of Military Justice in such a way as to imply sedition. Each line in the video was alternatively delivered by Senators Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan and Mark Kelly of Arizona, and Representatives Chris DeLuzio and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire, and Jason Crow of Colorado. By the way, this video format they're talking about here, this is so cringy, dude. This is like what you'd expect from like a middle school like film class or something. It's so cringy and it's just like, ugh, God. These 6 have now acquired the moniker of Seditious Six, and frankly, for good reason. It now appears that the 6 lawmakers have been found to have been heavily involved in money laundering. Investigative reporter / citizen journalist Bob Cushman has just released an FEC data analysis that strongly suggests that Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, Chrissy Houlihan, and Maggie Goodlander have been recipients of illegally laundered campaign funds. In the initial investigation, Cushman cites 22 Smurf examples that have allegedly contributed almost $3 million and more than 95,000 separate donations to Democrat coffers. All 6 members of the Seditious Six have received funds from one or more of these Smurfs. It needs to be stated that current thinking about the massive money laundering involving Act Blue is that the identities of the Smurfs have been hijacked and that the actual persons have no awareness of the illegal use of their identities. I can see where this is going. What about those cases in which those people know exactly what they're doing, right? Because that's also against the law. Live interviews by James O'Keefe, Charlie LeDuff, and Bob Cushman have shown the lack of awareness these victims of identity theft. In a very informative news discussion between Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Charlie LeDuff, in a No BS NewsHour episode number 395, and campaign strategist Jason Rowe, it was stated that Act Blue has allegedly received over $16 billion since 2004. It was also revealed that several senior members of Act Blue have abruptly resigned since allegations of fraud have come forward and several federal investigations have begun in 2025. Jason Rowe stated that people working within political campaigns for many years have been aware of the money laundering that was enabled by Act Blue, and that Charlie LeDuff had, within the first few minutes of episode 395, done a far better job of explaining how Act Blue had laundered money than any mainstream media ever had. Jason Rowe further states that this activity is fraud, this activity is money laundering, this activity is funneling money from outside the U.S., and that Republicans are now outraising Democrats for the first time in a decade. The summary of the involvement of the Seditious Six with money laundering is shown below. Of course, they give a big, ginormous table. All kinds of stuff in there you guys can take a look at. The Seditious Six Smurf summary can be downloaded here, of course. I give a link to that. Citizen journalist Bob Cushman has indicated that he is forwarding this damning evidence to the proper authorities, which would be the Department of Justice. Stay tuned for further developments, they say. So there is that, guys, once again from thegatewaypundit.com. They continue on with, like, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, as you guys can see. We don't have time. If I want to get to the rest of the news that I have for you guys, we do not have time to get through this massive, massive story. But I do recommend you guys to go ahead and take a look. And honestly, if there's anything to this story, we're going to be hearing a whole lot more about it by the time Monday rolls around. So I'm sure I'll have something else for you guys regarding this story on Monday that you guys can look forward to. But if you would like to take a little sneak peek of that, then here is the link that goes right to that story. Once again, you guys can also go to seasonpixels.wordpress.com for all the links to every story. Next one here from also the Gateway Pundit. Indiana legislator seeks to impeach rogue activist judges and prosecutors protecting criminals over citizens. Yes, yes, yes. I want more of this, man. Again, I have said a million times, because it's true, the judiciary branch of our government is freaking broken. At the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. It is really, really bad. So bad that I think that drastic measures need to be taken. In some cases, impeachments and indictments of sitting judges. Yes, I said it. Impeachments and indictments of sitting judges. I think some of these rulings from these so-called judges are that egregiously wrong. One sec, guys. My lips are very dry today. So, just trying my best to not be lisping all over the place on the show. Hopefully you guys have not noticed my lisp. When I was young, and I'm talking like young, maybe like, oh geez, when was this? When I was like 12 or so, maybe 11, I had a palatal expander because the roof of my mouth was like this, and it needs to be like that, right? It was like this. So I had a palatal expander. Ever since the palatal expander, my S's have been lispy. It never went away. And I never really cared that much about it to seek help for it. So there's that. Anyways, Raid on Antifa commented earlier, said, "I'm sorry, Pickles, are you surprised that Obama's admin was involved with cartels?" No, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. However, I am disgusted and angry about it, and I want, I want some justice for it. That's for damn sure. But no, I'm not surprised at all. It seems to be right on brand. Right on brand for the Democrat Party, man. Real quick, a couple more thank yous to say. No thanks, Joe, but the cookie says we need to stick together all. They are psyoping us into believing all is lost, but that's not close. The plan is still exposing more and more. Ex-military in Congress begging for people to refuse orders. MAHA news and meds look at companies signing on to the job. Trillions of dollars committed. I will quit my rant with the simple fact that we as people surround ourselves with that we most often think about. Therefore, do yourself a favor and treat yourself to positive surroundings by thinking positively. Stop thinking negative, and it will help make negativity disappear. Bless. 1,000% no thanks, Joe. Again, you graced the live chat with some fantastic comments, my friend. And thank you once again for the great support tonight, guys. We're at 40% to the goal for the day. I couldn't have said it better myself. No thanks, Joe. I think that you're right. You're hitting the nail right on the head, my friend. So thank you once again for your great comments. Really appreciate it. Raid says, about damn time, bring on the impeachments, and you guys were red-pilling him for that out there. 100%, man. So here we go. Republican State Representative for Indiana's House District 90, Andrew Ireland, has filed a proposed constitutional amendment that would give the state legislature the power to impeach judges and prosecutors who go soft on violent criminals. I just filed my constitutional amendment to let Indiana impeach rogue judges and prosecutors who refuse to hold violent criminals accountable, Ireland wrote on X Tuesday. Ireland argues current law leaves Indiana citizens vulnerable. It doesn't make a lot of sense to make any laws if we're going to just have judges and prosecutors that ignore them, he said in a recent interview with Indy Politics. And yeah, it's a very good point he's making. What is the point of any laws if these judges and prosecutors aren't even going to acknowledge them, that they're there? He believes a surge in violent crime, particularly in urban areas like in Indianapolis, calls for the legislature to step in where county courts have failed. Under the proposed amendment, legislators would gain the power to impeach and remove judges or prosecutors who consistently refuse to enforce state law in violent crime cases. It's amazing to me that I can be impeached, but the prosecutor can't, Ireland said. That needs to change. And yeah, talk about a lapse in separation of powers, man. You're telling me that these guys over here in the legislature can be impeached, but these guys over here in the judiciary can't be impeached? Yeah, that's a bit of a, disconnect. Like, really? How was it even made that way in the first place? More from Indy Politics, they say Ireland criticized Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears for what he described as a pattern of non-enforcement, particularly involving repeat violent offenders. While acknowledging the traditional concept of prosecutorial discretion, Ireland argued that the current situation in Marion County has moved beyond discretion and into neglect. Yes. 1,000%. When you as a prosecutor are refusing to enforce the law just because you think that doing so would be like anti-DEI or racist somehow or anything like that, that's not prosecutorial discretion. That's neglect of your job. And neglect of the American people and neglect of your community that put you in that job to do a job, which is to prosecute people for breaking the freaking law. Right? At the end of the day, it's not a partisan issue, it's a people issue, Ireland said. All I'm looking for is someone who will enforce our laws, especially when it comes to violent crime. Right now, I don't think that's happening. Ireland drew a distinction between Mears and his predecessor, Terry Curry, stating that Curry did the job well and held individuals accountable. Ireland said the issue isn't limited to prosecutors alone, but also judges who he believes too often approve lenient plea deals. It doesn't make a lot of sense to pass laws at the state house if prosecutors and judges are just going to ignore them, he said. Ireland's comments come in response to legislation previously proposed by State Senator Mike Young that would allow Indiana State Police or Capitol Police to assume jurisdiction over the downtown Indianapolis Mile Square. While Ireland said he supports law enforcement collaboration, he stressed that policing alone won't solve the problem if the judicial system is not also fully engaged. You can have all the policing in the world, but if you don't have prosecutors and judges who are willing to hold violent offenders accountable, it doesn't mean much, he said. So there is that. Once again, guys, from thegatewaypundit.com. I could not agree with this fine gentleman any more than I already do. I wish him Godspeed and very good luck in his quest to put in this constitutional amendment. Really, just good luck to him, and his cause is more than noble. I don't even know if noble is a good enough word for his cause here. But, I think this is fantastic, and I really hope that this ends up becoming a part of the Constitution in Indiana. Catgirl88 out there says, "Hey, Pickles, did you go through speech classes? My middle son had some speech issues when he was younger, and it helped. More like speech articulation lessons." I didn't. So I did notice that like the lisp came about like after the palatal expander. I know for a fact that was the cause of it. I never really cared enough to actually go and get it fixed. You know what I mean? Like it's just not something that like bothers me that much. So I never really put that much mind to it to really want to go to some class or anything like that to get it corrected. What I am happy about is my reading skills. I don't even know if they can improve. Well, yeah, they could improve. They're not perfect, but it's one of the things I'm just naturally good at is reading aloud. So obviously that makes this show kind of doable for me. Ray Down Antifa out there with the shades. Thank you very much for the shades, my friend. Really appreciate the generosity thus far, guys. We're at 44% to the goal for the day. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Once again, guys, thank you times a million. Hangover Gang with the shades says you speak beautifully. Thank you, Hangover Gang, for the shades and the wonderful comment there. I really appreciate that. And I try, guys. I try to speak eloquently. Sometimes I cuss, though, which, these days it's hard not to sometimes with some of the absolutely unreal crap. But somebody in the family actually was watching my show yesterday, and I was like cussing up a storm because I was just done with the stupid. And they're like, they like scolded me for it. It's kind of funny. They're like, Brandon, like you need to stop cussing on your show. You're gonna chase people away, man. So I'm trying to watch myself today. I'm consciously trying not to use swear words today on the show. Hopefully you guys out there are enjoying. Anyway, I'm seeing people drop off because we need to get back into the news. So let's get back into it, guys. Once again, thank you guys in the live chat for all your support thus far. I really, really appreciate it. Next one here comes from thenationalpulse.com. Pam Bondi directs federal law enforcement to begin probing Antifa for tax crimes and domestic terrorism. So U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a memo on Thursday to all federal prosecutors and law enforcement officials, laying out a number of legal avenues to bring charges against Antifa and affiliated organizations. Among the possible legal actions suggested in Bondi's memo are charges pertaining to domestic terrorism and tax crimes. The memo comes in the wake of an executive order signed by President Donald J. Trump in September, which designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Notably, the Attorney General gives federal law enforcement agencies 14 days to conduct internal reviews of criminal files for relevant intelligence that should be shared with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Bondi's memo also urges officials to begin prioritizing Antifa-related crimes for prosecution. These domestic terrorists use violence or the threat of violence to advance political and social agendas, including opposition to law and immigration enforcement, extreme views in favor of mass migration and open borders, adherence to radical gender ideology, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, or anti-Christianity, the Attorney General wrote. Keep in mind, guys, the Overton window stuff. You said this 10 years ago, guys. Imagine the reaction of the left. They go completely nuts. Now, of course, they're going to go completely nuts over this as well, but no one's going to give a damn, right? Like, the vast majority of, like, regular people are like, yep, Antifa needs to be stopped. That's right. Go at him, Pam Bondi. Go ahead. No problem at all. The Trump administration is also reportedly exploring ways to revoke the tax-exempt status of certain left-wing groups that are tied to Antifa. In October, terrorism charges were filed against activists allegedly tied to a North Texas Antifa cell following a protest where a police officer was shot. This marked the first time such charges were brought in connection with Antifa. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently designated 4 European Antifa groups as foreign terrorist organizations. So there is that, guys, once again, from thenationalpulse.com. Very glad to hear that they are going to start cracking down bigly on Antifa for anything from tax crimes to domestic terrorism. And really, they're going to find, if they look, they are going to find a whole lot of domestic terrorism from that little group. So, alrighty, fam, there is that. Once again, from thenationalpulse.com. Have we made a dent in the articles today? Let's count out how many we've done thus far, because I'm trying to come up with an estimate of how long this show is going to take. We're not even near the halfway mark yet, so it's like, oh boy. Let's see here. We've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 stories. So we're a little bit more than a quarter of the way through. I'd say we're about a third of the way through. So we're doing okay. We're doing okay. I think we'll be just fine. Let's see. Hangover Gang says, there's been some anti-Pam Bondi comments. I'm not sure what to think about her. I thought she was doing her job, but no. Okay, so here's how I view here's how I read the whole Bondi hate situation. I think that honestly some people are just frustrated that things are moving slowly on the justice front. I think that's frustration number one. I also think that people do not like it when Pam Bondi gets on camera and starts talking all tough game and she's all dramatic and everything. It makes her seem very actressy, and people just don't like that. So I think that's the two things, honestly, that's making people not like Pam Bondi. Her demeanor while on camera, the amount of Fox News interviews that she'll do, and she'll go on there and talk a big tough game, but then we don't see any deep staters arrested. So there's a disconnect there, and I think that's the main thing that people are not liking about Pam Bondi and her job performance thus far. Frankly, she is doing her job as Attorney General. I just think that there are some things that could be prioritized that the American people would really, really, really love to see prioritized. And it's they're focused on some other things right now. They're not getting their pound of flesh, and so they're really angry about it. And then they see her get up on camera and talk up a big game and try to seem all dramatic and tough and everything. But that's not really what people are seeing when it comes to the actual actions being taken when it comes to certain things. D Doodle out there says she's not a good public speaker. She can't read as well as you. And yeah, honestly, I think that's also one of the problems. I think she misspeaks, and she, with the Epstein files, when she was asked about the client list, she said, "Oh, I've got the Epstein files on my desk." Now, what she was referring to there was the case file, right? The DOJ case file on Jeffrey Epstein was on her desk. She was reviewing it. She forgot to say that, though. She forgot to explicitly say the case file. And so everyone thought she meant, oh, it's the client list. It's the client list, right? And then the next day or whatever, we get freaking rug pulled on that. And everyone realizes that she wasn't talking about the client list. Now everybody hates Pam Bondi. That's kind of how it happened. So, I don't know. I see, Is it her fault because she misspoke? She could have spoke more clearly to avoid rug pulling everybody? Yeah. But, like, does that mean that she is actively covering up the Epstein situation? No. I think that's really unfair to Pam Bondi to say that. So that's my reading of the situation. Maybe you guys out there disagree. Maybe you agree. I don't know, but that's kind of how I see it. So, anyways, good talk, guys. Anywho, so we're about a third of the way through. What is the halfway mark today? What is the halfway mark? You know what? We'll do the halfway mark at Derek Chauvin from Breitbart. We've got that story. It's a little bit later on. I just want to close out some of these stories up top here to make my workspace just a little bit cleaner because there's so many tabs up there to deal with right now. I just want to try and get rid of some of them. So give me a minute, guys. We'll close out these tabs, and then I just got to remember that Breitbart story, disconnected from the rest of the Breitbart stories, is our halfway mark. Okay. All right, moving into the next one here. Yeah, Cat Gladiate says the Invisible Cup. Yes, we have the Invisible Cup today, guys. The grand, beloved Invisible Cup. Not quite invisible today. It's got there's a little bit of a green screen effery going on, but yeah, Invisible Cup indeed. Okie dokie, guys. With all that being said, sorry guys, I went on a total tangent there. From Daily Wire, here we go. DC pipe bomb suspect reportedly confesses to investigators. So we have more updates on this whole situation. And man, it took a long time to get answers on this because apparently what it sounds like is the Biden regime didn't do an investigation at all. They basically just did a massive cover-up. So that's interesting. Real quick, guys, I'm just going to restart my Chrome executable because it was lagging like crazy. I don't know why that's been happening. I need to see if I need to like reinstall Chrome on my system or what. I don't know, guys, but it's been acting a fool lately. The man arrested for allegedly planting pipe bombs at the Republican and Democrat Party headquarters in Washington, D.C. in the hours before the January 6th Capitol riot confessed to the act on Thursday, according to multiple reports. Brian Cole Jr., who the FBI arrested on Thursday morning, told investigators during interviews on Thursday afternoon that he planted the bombs, according to the Associated Press and the New York Post, which cited sources familiar with the matter. Cole, a 30-year-old living in Woodbridge, Virginia, has been charged with transporting explosives across state lines with intent to kill, injure, and cause damage and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. He is set to be arraigned in a D.C. federal court on Friday afternoon. During his interviews with investigators, Cole also expressed support for President Donald Trump and indicated that he believed the 2020 election was stolen from Trump, the Associated Press reported. Whether Cole allegedly planted pipe bombs in response to Trump losing the 2020 election to former President Joe Biden, however, remains in question. According to charging documents, Cole began purchasing supplies for the pipe bombs in May 2019, long before the controversy surrounding the 2020 election erupted. The Daily Wire reported on Thursday that Cole worked for a bail bonds company run by his father that worked to free illegal immigrants from ICE facilities and sued the Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security. Cole's exact political leanings or potential motivations remain cloudy, as some reports have also stated that the suspect holds anarchist views. Federal authorities have not yet revealed what they believe to be the suspect's motive. The FBI declined to comment on the ongoing investigation. The FBI zeroed in on Cole after nearly 5 years of investigation into the case by analyzing thousands of purchases, cell phone data, and license plates. Data from Cole's cell phone provider showed that he was near the RNC and DNC on January 5th, 2021, between 7:39 p.m. and 8:24 p.m., according to the charging documents. Cole's 2017 Nissan Sentra with Virginia plates was also allegedly captured by a license plate reader on I-395 South near the Capitol at 7:34 p.m. on that same night. So there is that, guys, once again from DailyWire.com. Another update with regard to the D.C. pipe bomb suspect who was just arrested yesterday. They made that announcement yesterday, and we're just now starting to get more on this guy. Here's the next one from Zero Hedge. They continue on in Zero Hedge with the pipe bomber story here. FBI pipe bomber breakthrough exposes Biden-era failures after 4 years. And again, yeah, they're very, very right on Zero Hedge to point this out. This should not have taken 4 to 5 years to find out who this guy was. During the entire 4-year administration of Biden, The entire 4-year administration, we never got a single peep on this. Do you know why? Here's my opinion as to why we never heard who this guy was. Because he wasn't a Trump supporter. That's it. The Biden regime, the FBI probably knew who this guy was, realized he wasn't a Trump supporter, and said, well, damn. All right, we're just going to have to cover this thing up because it's of no use to us whatsoever. It's of no use to us. If they could have said, like, oh, this was a Trump supporter, and therefore Trump supporters are domestic terrorists, they would have plastered it all over the freaking news, man. You would have heard about who this guy was the day after January 6th. January 7th, 2021. We would have known who this guy was. But because he's an anarchist and not a Trump supporter, they thought, well, might as well just cover it up because it doesn't do anything for us. Yeah, according to CNN, he's a white guy, says Timothy Nortoni. Funny stuff, huh? Real funny stuff. We actually have that story, by the way. I could not grab that story. I couldn't help myself. More than 4 years after pipe bombs appeared outside the RNC and DNC headquarters on January 5th, 2021, and less than a month after the Blaze fingered a former Capitol police officer in a now retracted report that their sources still stand by, the Trump administration announced the arrest of Brian Cole Jr., 30 years old, of Woodbridge, Virginia, on Thursday. Cole has been charged under 18 U.S. Code Section 844 for deploying an explosive device. During a press conference the day of the arrest, Attorney General Pam Bondi made it clear how this cold case was finally solved. According to Bondi, new tips or witnesses led to the breakthrough, just persistent investigation. Or no new tips or witnesses led to the breakthrough, just persistent investigation and teamwork. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. The total lack of movement in this case, in our nation's capital, undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies, she said. This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years. Deputy Director Bongino also appeared on Fox News Thursday night. He explained to Sean Hannity that the truth about the J6 pipe bomber case had been sitting in plain sight for years, and the problem wasn't a lack of evidence, but a lack of leadership. It's almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions, he said. It's horrifying, he added. I don't know what they were doing. Well, they were engaging in a cover-up. That's what they were doing, obviously. He explained that right after being sworn in, probably 15 minutes later, as he put it, he told the team, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. Once he heard what had been done, he saw that the agents had put in real work, even a pretty extensive amount of work, but the case still needed urgent direction. He blasted the old FBI brass for obsessing over politics while the case went cold. I don't know what the hell this prior leadership team was doing outside of targeting political opponents, weaponizing the FBI, destroying its reputation, he said. He argued that the agency's credibility suffered because its leaders acted almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions. According to Bongino, the agents had logged an enormous amount of legwork, including thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews, hundreds of tips, but the investigation had gone stale. He recalled pulling the case agent aside and telling him directly, you're going to get me this guy, you're going to track this guy down, and you're going to find him, you're going to get me this guy, I want him. That order launched nearly 9 months of work that led to the break they announced. He stressed that the success came from a full team effort across agencies. You cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process, he said, pointing to subpoenas, warrants, and filings handled by DOJ officials. He credited U.S. Attorney Pirro, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and Attorney General Bondi, underscoring that you cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process. Now, questions remain about why the Biden-led Justice Department did not act sooner despite having all the evidence necessary to catch Cole. There is speculation that the Biden administration was more interested in tracking down and prosecuting peaceful January 6 protesters, which may have diverted resources from this case. Others speculate about possible deliberate stalling or withholding of information for political reasons. Really, that's where I lean in my reading of why this took so long. Why there was no movement on it during the entire Biden so-called administration. By Thursday evening, we learned more details about Cole. The Daily Wire described him as a left-leaning black activist whose background challenges the mainstream narrative about January 6th. Of course. No wonder they covered it up. It's just, you can't make it up, guys. You just can't. According to the report, Cole worked for his father's bail bond business, which specialized in helping illegal immigrants secure release from ICE custody. The family's company even sued the Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security over immigration policy, and later, Cole and his father reportedly enlisted attorney Benjamin Crump to pressure Joe Biden's Department of Justice to investigate alleged racial discrimination by a local prosecutor. The story suggests that these connections cast doubt on the long-standing narrative that the pipe bombs linked to Cole were part of an organized right-wing plot tied to the Capitol riot. Yet, sources are now telling CNN and NBC News that Cole believed that the 2020 election was stolen, as they're trying to make the case that he's a Trump supporter. The Biden administration's handling of the pipe bomb investigation will likely draw further scrutiny as more details emerge. So there it is, guys. Once again, from ZeroHedge.com, we got some clips in this story, which means that I get to give my voice a little bit of a rest here. Very happy about that. I've been speaking now for 2 hours and 2 minutes at full freaking volume. Again, hopefully you guys out there are enjoying the show. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and play these clips here in just a minute. I do have some more thank yous to say. Let's see here. Hangover Gang out there with 856 gold pills says, OMG, I forgot the tradition for so long. Thank you very much, Hangover Gang, for the 856 gold pills. That is a gold pill for every episode of The Breakdown that has aired up until now. Once again, Hangover Gang, thank you very much for the generosity there. That's more than a phone, so we'll do a phone and the raining gold pills there. Once again, thank you so much. Hangover Gang, again, with 855 gold pills, says yesterday's tradition pills. Thank you very much, Hangover Gang, for the 855 tradition pills there. Much appreciated. Hangover Gang out there with a ship says, and all the tradition pills I forgot. Thank you very much, Hangover Gang, for the very, very generous ship there. Much appreciated. No thanks, Joe. The cookie says, according to Q, we're watching a movie and supposed to be enjoying the show. Please get your popcorn and know that if Pam Bondi isn't reading her script perfectly, DJT would be giving her director's instructions in order to get her an Academy Award. We, the audience, truly know nothing. Yeah, 100%. No thanks, Joe. Thank you very much for the cookie once again, my friend. Really been appreciating all of your fantastic comments out there. Clearly a great patriot. And yeah, I think, a lot of this, in a lot of aspects, I think we are watching a movie. I think a lot of this is kind of predetermined how it's going to go. It's been made kind of clear to me a few times throughout this whole process. Just have, the timeline that we've been on and the way things were predicted many years ago. And, one of the predictions was that the Overton window will be shifted. Well, look at where we're at right now, guys. The Overton window is shifted hugely. Very, very in a big way, right? But anyways, we got some clips here regarding the Washington, D.C. pipe bomber. This one's in a minute and 19 seconds. We are live on YouTube still, guys, so I do have to try and pause these every 30 seconds or so to spit some commentary out on these. This second one, 2.5 minutes long as well. So we got a couple quick clips here to check out. Here is Pam Bondi talking about how there was no new tip in this. It's, that's not why they found this guy. This was just putting their nose to the grindstone and investigate. Here it is.
4 long years. Let me be clear. There was no new tip. There was no new witness. Just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress.
Well, I think it is. I think it absolutely is a significant step towards, making people feel more confident. The problem is, though, it's like, yes, it is a step in the right direction that we've got this guy, we've arrested him, though. Though the issue, I don't think that you're fully going to restore, the confidence in the DOJ, for instance. At least with this, not a for instance, but with this, it is confidence in the DOJ that she wants to restore. If she wants to do that, then the people who slow-walked and the investigation and did the cover-up years ago, those people need to be held accountable. Those people need to be kicked out of the FBI if they haven't already been, and you should probably look at prosecuting them for failing to do their job for political reasons. That's what the American people want to see. Excuse me, I almost choked on my spit there. That's what we want to see. We want to see people who caused the institutions to not be trusted anymore to be prosecuted for the actions that led to that. The trust won't come back until all those people are in prison. And I hate to say that, but I think that's where we're at. We need to see people in freaking jail. That's the bottom line. This is a step in the right direction. Getting this guy, but the people that slow walked and covered up the investigation during the Biden years for 4 years, they need to be held accountable. Let's see here. Cagaletier says the raining pills effect is still kind of blurry. I suspect it looks crystal clear on my OBS screen. I suspect that's just because of the video compression, because we're streaming. So I'm not, the video can't stream raw over the internet. It would just be way too much data. So that's just a side effect, I think, of the video being compressed. If you watch in HD on Pilled, it won't be blurry, because I've got I'm streaming at 14,000 kilobytes per second with all the bells and whistles, with NVENC compression and everything turned on. I'm streaming at the absolute best quality that my internet can possibly handle, and I have pretty good internet. So if you watch in HD or at the highest setting that you can watch, it'll be a lot better. Let's see here. More thank yous to say. You guys are just amazing today. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. Nylon Camel with a can. No message there. So just once again, Nylon Camel, thank you so much for the can. And to a lowrider out there with a shade says, weekend incoming. Enjoy. Thank you very much to a lowrider for the shades. I really appreciate that, my friend. And the weekend is coming. The weekend is tonight, fam. That's when it begins. Hopefully you guys are gearing up to have a super, super fantastic weekend. All right, fam, let's go ahead and get back into it. Hopefully my tangents aren't boring you guys. I see that we actually have an audience out there. We got 5 people on YouTube. Imagine that. Hello to you people on YouTube. How you doing? Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe and all that crap they say on YouTube. Much love to you guys. First 10 that I've been on YouTube in many, many years. Pam Bondi, guys. Here we go.
We'll share more information when we can and when it unfolds. I cannot stress enough how hard Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have worked for months to make our nation's capital safer and to make our country safer. I'd like to introduce now Director Patel.
Thank you, General. When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation.
All right, so there's Kash Patel. Obviously, the clip cuts off there. But yeah, Pam Bondi making it very clear, they didn't find this guy because there was a new tip or anything like that, or some, technological breakthrough that allowed them to, blah, blah, blah. No, this was just them putting their nose to the grindstone instead of what the Biden regime did, which was literally put no effort forward whatsoever to find out who this guy was. Or if they knew who this guy was, they didn't want it out there. NAG1229 with the cookie out there. Thank you very much, NAG1229 for the cookie. As always, guys, I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, Hangover Gang says 11% away from the goal. Yep, we're at 89% to the goal for the day, guys. Means a million. It means so much to me in times a billion. So just thank you guys so much to have this kind of. To have that kind of support on the show, it's just amazing. So thank you guys, times a million. By the way, I'm seeing over on Rumble, I feel so bad for you guys on Rumble because it's the platform I think least about. But I see you guys out there. Res5 Red, it's good to see you. Corey Simo, hello. And Bike Life Inc. says, what a beautiful comment here, by the way. If you're still out there, thank you so much for this. They said, I find the soft lisp endearing, C's, and love your rundown of the news. Much love to you, my friend. Thank you so much for the comment. I really appreciate it. Anyways, we have one more clip here. This is Dan Bongino speaking with Sean Hannity on Fox News. Let's see what he had to say about this. And again, I'll be trying my very best to pause this every 30 seconds and say something because it's kind of a requirement on the old boob tube. Here we go.
Is you did not find any new evidence. It was all there, had been there for the longest period of time. The only difference between you and Director Wray and the Biden DOJ is they did not prioritize it. Why? And I know it wasn't easy to solve, but you did it in 8 months.
Yeah. Sean, I don't know what.
Well, it's a good question. And, I don't know if Bongino really wants to answer it. I don't know if Bongino wants to get up here and say, the officials during the Biden administration, they just didn't even want to answer, they didn't want to answer the question for the American people. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but it's a big question there that Hannity's asking, obviously.
What the hell this prior leadership team was doing outside of, targeting political opponents, weaponizing the FBI, destroying its reputation, embarrassing agents that are doing really good work out there, catching terrorists, CCP spies and everyone else. It's almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions. It's horrifying.
It does kind of seem that way. It really does kind of seem that way sometimes with the way that the DOJ and FBI would behave before during the Biden administration. It's like they didn't even want us to trust them. Very strange.
I don't know what they were doing. I can tell you what happened, though, when we got there. The director and I. My first meeting, I swore in, and I kid you not, probably 15 minutes later, and the people who are in the meeting know, I said, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. And I looked at the case agent after getting a full brief on what they'd done, and they had done a pretty extensive amount of work. They had chased down, I think, thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews had been conducted, hundreds.
Here's the thing. What I want to know is, did Bongino ask these case agents, hey, who was in charge of the investigation before we were here? Can you tell us who was like heading up this investigation before we got here? Because that would be some pretty important information, I think.
It tips, and it still was relatively stale, the case. And I grabbed the case agent on the way out, and I said, "You're going to get me this guy. You're going to track this guy down, and you're going to find him. You're going to get me this guy. I want him." And that started what's been almost a 9-month operation right now to make sure that we could get full accountability and transparency to the American public and find this guy. And today we did. But Sean, I have to add this because this is really important. You've heard all the cliches, team effort. You hear it all the time in sports. I said.
Yeah, we've heard all that a trillion times. Please give us something else, Dan, please.
Today at the presser, but I want to emphasize this. This was a team. Judge Jeanine, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, people you and I know very well, AG Bondi. You cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process. Subpoenas, drawn paper, search warrants, complaints, arrest warrants. Who do you think does that? It's not just us. We're the investigators. They're the lawyers. So that team from day one. Yeah, so there it is. I mean, again, I'm happy that they caught the guy. Very happy indeed. But I think that the trust that they're looking for is not going to fully come back until they answer the question of why was this covered up during the Biden administration and who is going to be held accountable for that, right? Does it go all the way up to Chris Wray? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it did. So there is that. All right, guys. Next story here comes from ZeroHedge.com, and this is just I feel like I don't even need to read the story. It's just, here's the headline, and we'll play the clip, okay? CNN's Jake Tapper mislabels DC pipe bomb suspect as a white man. Uh-huh. Yep. That's right, guys. Jake Tapper just had to go there. Yeah, and Autism Capital out there says, just so instinctually programmed to lie. Literally an NPC programmed to lie. And here it is, guys. 20 seconds of Jake Tapper being Jake Tapper and Communist News Network being Communist News Network.
Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., A 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs is charged with transporting an explosive device.
Does he look white to you guys? Oh, my goodness. My goodness, guys. It's just fake news, guys. It's just very, very fake news. So there it is. Now, of course, they went through some other things and whatnot in this story, but I grabbed this for that reason. Yeah, that's a real white guy. That's the whitest guy I've ever seen, guys. He's whiter than I am. Oh, lordy. I don't even know what to say about that one. Cosmic Monkey 3310 out there says LOL. And yeah, it's just funny at this point, man. You're right. It's just freaking funny at this point. So there it is. CNN being CNN. Next one here comes from the Epic Times. More than 400 arrested in Operation Charlotte's Web, federal officials say. And of course, this is going on in North Carolina. Know me for you, says trans white. Everybody go ahead and red pill bomb Nomi's comment there. That's just too freaking good, man. Oh my gosh. That's just too freaking good. That's what it was. That's the excuse he'll have tomorrow, Nomi. He identifies as white. Oh, that's why we love her, guys. Cat Girl 88. You guys are killing me out there. Look at this. Hello, I'm white and privileged. Oh, this is why I love doing this show. You guys are amazing. You guys are fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and get back to it. From the Epic Times, the Department of Homeland Security announced that more than 400 illegal immigrants have been arrested weeks after launching an operation in and around Charlotte, North Carolina. A statement issued by a spokesperson to the Epic Times on Friday said both DHS and other agencies continue to target some of the most dangerous criminal illegal aliens as Operation Charlotte's Web progresses, referring to the name of the operation targeting illegal immigrants in the city. This immigration enforcement surge in the Charlotte area, I almost said California, obviously needed, has led to the arrest of over 425 illegal aliens since Operation started, the DHS spokesperson said. In mid-November, the department announced it would send law enforcement officials to North Carolina to go after criminal illegal aliens, adding that more than 1,400 immigration and customs enforcement detainers haven't been honored by local law enforcement. The DHS announcement stated that individuals accused of murder, rape, and other offenses were released after being arrested due to sanctuary policies before providing photos and names of people who were recently detained. Charlotte Mayor V. Lyles, a Democrat, said last month that she was hopeful the enforcement operation would end soon after local authorities said that Operation Charlotte's Web would be winding down. I'm relieved for our community and the residents, businesses, and all those who were targeted and impacted by this intrusion, Lyles wrote in a post on X. As we move forward, it is essential that we come together, not as separate groups divided by recent events, but as one Charlotte community. Has anyone heard anything more cringy in their life? However, DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin said on X that the operation isn't ending soon, and that reports suggesting otherwise are false. Lyles has been critical of the immigration operation, suggesting in a statement on November 17th that some residents have expressed concern, fear, and uncertainty in response to these activities. Well, I got a newsflash for you, people. Listen, it's very simple. If you're in the country legally, you've got nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about at all. But, if you are in the country illegally, then you have a lot of things to worry about. Trust me, thank you very much. If you're in the country illegally, it's probably time to bring yourself the hell out of your own volition before the DHS finds you. Just saying, we can calm down with the laser eyes now. I just wanted to make sure that was very clear. If you are in this country legally, not a problem. No worries. Otherwise, all bets are off. all bets are off. I'm deeply concerned with many of the videos I've seen, and I urge all agencies operating here to conduct their work with respect for those values, the mayor said. We also recognize the emotional and economic impact these operations can have on families, neighborhoods, and local businesses. Yes, actually, quite positive ones. Gosh. Can you imagine being one of these people and having to pretend that this is the worst thing that's ever happened? While, the vast majority of the American people don't think it's even enough yet? President Donald Trump said it is necessary to send the military and immigration agents into Democratic-leaning areas such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and Washington, adding that the operations are needed to fight crime and carry out his mass deportation policies. Throughout the 2024 campaign, Trump repeatedly said mass deportations were a cornerstone of his presidential agenda. He and other administration officials say that removing illegal immigrants would drive down prices for goods and homes while bolstering public safety. Obviously, they're 1,000% correct. This week, Homeland Security officials confirmed that the department would carry out a deportation effort in New Orleans, dubbed Operation Catahoula Crunch, which will focus on illegal immigrants who were released from jail due to sanctuary policies. I like the name, Catahoula Crunch. It sounds like a breakfast cereal. While the department has not provided an update on the number of arrests, a news release issued Thursday confirmed that a number of criminal offenders have been detained so far. Louisiana Republicans voiced their support. By the way, would love to go down to Louisiana and try some of the food down there. Your guys' food. If there's anybody in Louisiana, as a Michigander, I have to tell you guys, I'm jealous of your food culture, man. All the Creole, the seafood, the seafood boil, and the shrimp and grits and everything. You guys got it going on down there, let me tell you. Anyways, total tangent there. Louisiana Republicans voiced their support. The chair of the state party, Derek Babcock, said the operation shows a commitment from the Trump administration and Republican Governor Jeff Landry to keeping our citizens safe. So there's that. Operation Charlotte's Web has so far netted 400 arrests. Fantastic stuff. Also, one more comment to say about the food culture of Louisiana. And this might shock some people out there, and it may be the saddest sentence that's ever come out of my gullet. This thing on my face. I have never in my life, and I'm 29 years old, I've never in my life had gumbo. I know, guys, I know. I said it, and it's true. I said it, and it's true, and it's sad. It's an absolute freaking travesty. I've never had gumbo. I'm 1,000% sure that I would love it with every fiber of my being, but I've never tried it. I've never tried it. If there's anybody out there in Louisiana listening to my voice, and you have a good gumbo recipe, please link it to me in the chat. Please link it to me in the chat. Because I'd love to even try making it myself. Would love to try it. Anyways, we'll stop talking about gumbo and start talking about the news. J2 Dank out there with a ship says gumbo is so good. I totally trust you on that, man. I haven't had it, but I know that it's good. Because I've seen the ingredients and I've seen people eating it. I know that thing is good. Thank you so much for the very generous ship there, J2 Dank. I really appreciate it. The moment that I get to try gumbo, maybe I'll put that on in video and I'll show you guys one day. All right. Sorry for making you guys hungry out there. ZZ Haas, much love to you. Hangover Gang says I'll send you a recipe. Perfect. Fantastic. Looking forward to it. All right, guys, back to the news from Daily Wire. ICE nabs violent Somalis, including gangbanger and a pedophile, in Minneapolis raids. So ICE doing the Lord's work over there in Minneapolis. Federal immigration authorities nabbed violent Somali offenders, including a gangbanger and a pedophile, as part of a recent operation targeting Minneapolis. More than 100 ICE officers from across the country were deployed to Minneapolis this week to target roughly 500 Somalis with deportation orders, Homeland Security sources recently revealed to the Daily Wire. Within less than a week, ICE took several violent offenders off the streets. Among them was Abdul Qadir Sharif Abdi. I nailed it, guys. A former member of the Gangster Disciples. What? And current member of the Vice Lord Nation gang, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Abdi also had convictions for fraud, receiving stolen property, receiving a stolen vehicle, vehicle theft, and multiple probation violations. The feds also snatched pedophile Sahal Osman Shidane, who was convicted of criminal sexual conduct with a minor aged 13 to 15, according to the Department of Homeland Security. The Trump administration placed the blame on the sanctuary leaders in Minnesota who allow illegal immigrant criminals to walk out of jails and onto the streets. Sanctuary policies and politicians like Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey allowed these pedophiles, domestic terrorists, and gang members to roam the streets and terrorize Americans, Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement Friday. ICE law enforcement are risking their lives to protect Minnesotans while their own elected officials sit by and do nothing. No matter when and where, ICE will find, arrest, and deport all criminal illegal aliens, McLaughlin added. The Trump administration set its sights on Minnesota after fraudsters in the sanctuary state allegedly stole billions of taxpayer funds, funneling cash from state welfare programs through fake nonprofits and shell companies back to Somalia, and even Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab, City Journal reported last month. Much of the fraud has been tied to the state's massive Somali population. 78 Somalis have so far been charged for their alleged roles in the fraud operation, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt revealed during a recent press conference. In one case, a nonprofit allegedly used federal funds meant to feed thousands of children during COVID to buy homes, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya, according to one example provided by Leavitt. So there it is, guys. Once again, from dailywire.com, here's a link that goes to that story. Again, ICE continues doing the Lord's work, this time over in Minneapolis. And, of course, as they continue that operation, I will let you guys know the numbers and any other updates regarding it as we move forward. Next one here comes from justthenews.com. Quick story here. ICE arrests Harvard law professor, and he agrees to leave the United States. It's actually shocking how many people have been arrested by ICE, turning out to be illegal immigrants working not only in colleges, but also in like high schools and stuff across the country, and even elementary schools. It's insane how much of this we've actually seen, and it just begs the question, like, how many schools actually vet who they're hiring? It's insane. Two-way Loretta out there with a shade says gumbo is yumbo. I gotta try it now, guys. I really want to try some gumbo now. Oh, man. Thank you very much once again to a Loretta out there for the very generous shades. Much appreciated, as always, my friend. Let's get back to it. So, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrested a Harvard Law School professor this week, resulting in his agreeing to leave the country. Carlos Portugal Gouveia of Brazil previously admitted to discharging a pellet gun near a synagogue in November, telling authorities that he was hunting rats, according to the New York Post. Lord almighty, these people, man. Gouveia agreed, or Gouveia, or whatever, Gouveia, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, agreed to leave the U.S. following his detention. The Department of Homeland Security revoked his visa weeks after the incident with the pellet gun. So there's that, guys. FAFO, I guess, from justthenews.com. Very quick, to the point type of story. Honestly, when we have 54, those are very welcome indeed. Real quick, I'm just now realizing we're at 109% to the goal for the day. Once again, guys, thank you times a billion for the support tonight. I really appreciate it. And also, 56 out of 58 of you guys out there on Pilled have hit that red pill. Thank you guys for that as well. That's some serious support there. You guys are amazing. Thank you times a billion, man. Let's go ahead and continue on. From Breitbart.com, according to a report, illegal immigrant from El Salvador opens fire on Omaha officers. Hopefully, there's no fatalities or real serious injuries here. 28-year-old Juan Melgar Ayala, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador, reportedly opened fire on Omaha, Nebraska police officers in a gas station on Wednesday. It's now Friday, so kind of crazy we're only just now hearing about this story on Breitbart. WOWT reported that Melgar Ayala was involved in a shooting earlier in the day, and Omaha police were able to track him to the gas station. Upon entering the gas station, Melgar Ayala, who was wearing a mask, entered the restroom, leading police to believe they might face a barricade situation. However, once officers were positioned inside the business, Melgar Ayala exited the restroom and allegedly began shooting at officers. At least 3 officers were injured in the shooting, and Melgar Ayala was killed by the returning fire. The AP noted that wounded officers suffered non-life-threatening but serious injuries, so good to hear that at least the injuries of the officers are not life-threatening. They're going to make it. Hopefully they fully recover, and it does not affect them for the rest of their life. WOWT pointed out that Melgar Ayala was a convicted felon from El Salvador who was not legally in the United States. So it sounds to me like the dude chose to go out with a bang, and that's exactly what ended up happening. Another illegal immigrant gone from our country, not through deportation this time, but this time by suicide by cop. Thong Chaser with a cookie out there says, thanks again. Thank you very much, Thong Chaser, for the cookie as always. And you are very, very welcome, my friend. I'm guessing you're thanking me for the news. So once again, you guys are very welcome. I do this for you guys, and really appreciate all of you guys out there. Let's go ahead and continue on. We got another from Breitbart here. Border Patrol announces $5,000 apprehension fee for illegal aliens as DHS declares most secure border in history. This is freaking great. I love this. So here's why I love this, actually, because obviously the border operations going on right now are costing the American people a lot of money. It is taking a lot of money to run this mass deportation campaign. So what they're doing here is actually they're going to make the illegals pay for their own freaking deportation so that they can lessen the burden on the American people. This is like peak America frickin' first here, guys. This is greatness. Absolute greatness. So, U.S. Border Patrol Chief Michael Banks announced this week that illegal aliens aged 14 and older who enter the country without inspection will be assessed a $5,000 apprehension fee. The warning came as CBP Air and Marine Operations cautioned would-be migrants against attempting illegal sea crossings, and the Department of Homeland Security declared that President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem have delivered 7 straight months with 0 Border Patrol releases, the longest stretch in history. It really is something to behold, guys. Like, when it comes to the border, guys, the Trump administration 2.0 gets more than an A+. This is like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to grade it. It's like flying colors, the greatest crackdown on illegal immigration and reversal of illegal immigration that we have ever seen in this country. We got the numbers to back it up in this show prep somewhere in here today as well. Chief Banks announced this week that under 8 U.S. Code Section 1815, all illegal aliens aged 14 and older who enter the country without an inspection will be assessed a $5,000 apprehension fee. Banks emphasized that the penalties apply regardless of how long an individual has been in the United States or whether they are currently in immigration proceedings. Additional violations under 8 U.S. Code Section 2339 and 1324 are also in play, the chief stated. CBP Air and Marine Operations reinforced the warning with a blunt message to would-be migrants. If you cross the border illegally, you will be caught, deported, and banned from ever returning to the United States. Don't take to the sea. The statement highlights the growing use of maritime routes by smugglers and underscores CBP's commitment to shutting down illegal entry attempts by air and water, as well as on land. The Department of Homeland Security capped the week's announcements by declaring that President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem have delivered 7 consecutive months with 0 Border Patrol releases into the interior of the United States. DHS held the achievement as proof of the administration's aggressive enforcement posture, calling it the most secure border in history, and crediting coordinated efforts across agencies for unprecedented results. The Trump administration is not resting on its laurels of successfully securing the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Banks announced that border wall construction is once again underway in the Rio Grande Valley sector. Together, the $5,000 apprehension fee, CBP's maritime warning, and DHS's declaration of the most secure border in history send a unified message that under President Trump and Secretary Noem, illegal entry carries real consequences and America's borders are being locked down like never before. Solid steel wall panels are now standing tall in Harlingen, Texas, marking the beginning of 17.4 miles of unyielding progress, the Border Patrol chief stated. Impedance and denial aren't just the goals, they're the mission. The border is still closed. So there's that, guys. Once again from Breitbart.com. Absolutely freaking fantastic. This is about as good of an America First policy that you can get when it comes to illegal immigration. I seriously commend the Trump administration for this. Because this shows they're even, in the midst of like this massive operation that's probably costing millions and millions of dollars every day, they're brainstorming how can we reduce the burden on the American people while we take care of this problem. So this gets like a million accolades from me. A freaking plus, dude. We need more policies like this. This is just like knocking it out of the freaking park here. So there is that. Next one here comes from the epictimes.com. Noam says more than 2 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S. under Trump. 2 million, guys. 2 freaking million. Hold on. We need the laser eyes back. 2 freaking million, guys. That is 10% of the 20 million or so that were let in. That's an estimate during the Biden administration. Now, granted, that means that by the end of Trump's administration, we're only going to hit, if it stays the way it is, we're only going to hit around 40% of the 20 million. But still, that's a big friggin' chunk. A big chunk. Like, this is really good news, guys. 40%. That means like after Trump, we can put JD Vance in there. And by the end of his administration, right, it'll be like 80%. And that's if it doesn't speed up, by the way. That's if it stays exactly the same way as it is right now, with all these judges trying to do everything they possibly can to stop every aspect of it, right? So again, D-Doodle says, not enough. Hopefully that triples next year. I hear you. I understand. And I'm giving you a red pill on your comment because I agree. It isn't enough. But we're talking 1 year. 2 million people. It is a lot, and it shows that they are serious, absolutely serious about solving this problem. That is infinitely more than what can be said for Keir Starmer over in the UK, right? Infinitely more than what can be said. So here we go. More than 2 million illegal immigrants have left the United States during the first year of President Donald Trump's second term, and more than 10,000 federal immigration agents have been hired so far, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said this week. 2 million have gone home already. People that were here illegally, you have removed and sent home, Noem said at a White House cabinet meeting on December 2nd, speaking to President Donald Trump. We're going to send more home for the holidays, too. Noem said Immigration and Customs Enforcement has hired around 10,000 new officers this year. Hundreds of thousands of people have applied for ICE jobs, she added. And yeah, it's no wonder. People want to play a part in saving their freaking country, man. It's great. On Thursday, Noem confirmed in a news interview that the Trump administration is aiming to expand a travel ban to more than 30 countries. We have a story on this, by the way. Following Trump's recent remarks on immigration in the aftermath of the Thanksgiving week shooting of 2 National Guard members. I won't be specific on the number, but it's over 30, and the president is continuing to evaluate countries, the Homeland Security chief told Fox News' Ingram Angle on Thursday evening. You know what that is, guys. They gave President Trump, like, Google Earth. They gave President Trump Google Earth, and they're like, all right, anything on here that you identify as a shithole country? Go ahead, Mr. President. We'll get him out of there. We'll get him out. We'll make sure that nobody else is coming in from these places that you refer to as that, right? Oh, I love this administration, guys. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Noem added that if individuals from certain countries don't have a stable government there, if they don't have a country that can sustain itself and tell us who those individuals are and help us vet them, why should we allow people from that country to come here to the United States? Yeah, that's a fantastic question, guys. A fantastic question. Why, oh why, would we want to import the third world and become the third world? Nuh-uh. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not here. When asked by host Laura Ingraham about the number of countries that could be banned, Noem did not give a figure. She also did not say what nations could be subject to a travel ban. In the wake of the shooting in Washington that left 1 Guard member dead and another seriously wounded, Trump has taken action against a number of countries that he described as being third world. So far this year, the White House has banned or restricted travel from 19 countries, including, here we go, Afghanistan, Burundi, Chad, Cuba, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Laos, Libya, Burma, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sudan, Togo, Turkmenistan, Venezuela, and finally, last but not least, Yemen. This week, the administration said it is pausing certain applications from people from those same 19 countries. The changes were outlined in a policy memo posted Tuesday on the website of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the agency tasked with processing and approving all requests for immigration benefits. The agency also said it would conduct a comprehensive re-review of all approved benefit requests for immigrants who entered the country during the Biden administration. The agency cited the shooting of the 2 Guard members by a suspect who is an Afghan national as a reason for the pause and heightened scrutiny for people from those countries. This memorandum mandates that all aliens meeting these criteria undergo a thorough re-review process, including a potential interview and, if necessary, a re-interview to fully assess all national security and public safety threats, along with any other related grounds of inadmissibility or ineligibility, the memo stated. So there is that, guys, once again from theepictimes.com. Absolutely fantastic news here. Now, I know that some of you guys out there think this is not enough. I agree with you. I think that it does need to be more. But the fact that in 1 year they were able to get 2 million people out of this country with the entire system fighting them, it's very impressive, guys. Remember, in Washington, D.C., is like a land of molasses. Nothing moves quickly in Washington, D.C., unless it is the will of, the deep state political apparatus. This obviously is the exact opposite of the will of the deep state political apparatus, and yet the Trump administration still managed to remove 2 million people. 2 million people, man. It's really impressive. So, I'm very happy about it, guys. All right. Moving on to the next one here, which comes from the Epic Times, from ZeroHedge.com. Nome says the U.S. travel ban to expand to over 30 countries. So again, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said December 4th that the Trump administration is looking to increase the number of countries subject to the U.S. travel ban to more than 30. The United States currently imposes full or partial suspensions of entry on nationals from 19 countries, including Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran, Cuba, Somalia, Libya, Laos, Burma, also known as Myanmar, and Sudan. Nome said more countries will be added, but did not name any. So again, they go through some of the transcript here. Nome blamed the Biden regime for the asylum backlog, which she said has exceeded 1 million cases. She said credible applicants were unable to get through because the Biden administration was just allowing people to come here and allowing them a free-for-all at the United States and our territories and our country, and then they weren't vetting them and backlogging their cases. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services last week halted all asylum decisions following the November 26th shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, which authorities say was carried out by an Afghan national who entered the U.S. in September 2021 through a Biden-era resettlement program. Nome on December 2nd called for a full travel ban on countries she says are flooding the U.S. with criminals and welfare dependents following a meeting with President Donald Trump. And this is interesting too. The Trump administration in the beginning started with violent criminals, right? That's the one thing they were saying. They were saying violent criminals, that's who we're focusing on, the violent criminals. They didn't say welfare dependents. And the welfare dependents is what the American people are so sick and tired about, right? In addition, alongside the violent crime. But people don't like paying more taxes so that foreigners can come into their country and live on their dime. Nobody likes that. No one in their right mind would ever like that. And so the Trump administration, realizing this, is starting to realize, yeah, it's not just the violent criminals we need to get out of here. It's the people that come into our country with this sick, disgusting belief that they're entitled to the American taxpayers' money. Get them out. They do nothing but disrespect the American people with that nonsense. Get them out. I love it. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them, not one, she stated on X. Yes! Yes! Thank you. Trump has said that his administration would work to pause immigration from third world countries to allow for the U.S. system's full recovery. Speaking to reporters on November 30th, the president said that his reference to third world countries included people from different countries that are not friendly to us and countries that are out of control themselves, pointing to Somalia as one example. Trump also urged to suspend all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens, denaturalize immigrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreigners deemed to be a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. So there it is, guys. Once again, from ZeroHedge.com. Just awesome news, and I can't wait to hear what these over 30 countries are going to be. It's going to be real interesting to figure that one out, let me tell you. Checking up on the live chat from YouTube here, just making sure that we're all caught up, because I don't know if all of them are coming through on my little like restream thingamabob. Yep, it looks like we are all caught up. I think most of everyone over on YouTube has left. Oh no, it looks like there's still 2 people out there. Whoever you guys are on YouTube, hopefully you're enjoying. Make sure to smash that like button. Let's go ahead and continue on. And we actually have just one more story until we flip over to pill.net exclusively for the rest of the night. So keep that in mind, guys. I'll be pushing some links out there for you guys to follow us over to our home base, Pilled, for the rest of the news. Anyways, and yeah, just now, guys, at 8:42 p.m., we're getting to around that halfway mark, and we are 2 hours and 47 minutes into the show. So I told you guys it was going to be a long one tonight. I did not lie. Supreme Court will hear Trump's birthright citizenship case. This is a huge story coming out of the Epic Times. Check this out. The U.S. Supreme Court decided on December 5th to review whether President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship is constitutional. The court's decision took the form of an unsigned order without comment. No justices dissented. The case is known as Trump v. Barbara. Trump's Executive Order 14160, signed on January 20th, states that the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. According to the order, an individual born in the United States is not subject to the jurisdiction thereof if that person's mother was unlawfully present in the country and the individual's father was not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of the person's birth. It also states that the privilege of U.S. citizenship does not apply to an individual whose mother's presence was lawful but temporary and whose father was neither a citizen nor a lawful permanent resident at the time of that individual's birth. The executive order has prompted debate over the meaning of the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, which states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is the key component of this, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. A 3-judge panel of the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled on July 23rd that the executive order was invalid because it contradicts the plain language of the 14th Amendment's grant of citizenship to all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. I guess the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit doesn't understand what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means. Anyways, before that, the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington ruled against the executive order on February 6th. That court granted a preliminary injunction. Uh-oh, there goes my voice, guys. I was wondering if that was going to happen. That court granted a preliminary injunction blocking the order because it subjects the states challenging the order to immediate economic and administrative harms. That court said the executive order would compel the states to disqualify many people it considers citizens and, in the process, cause them to lose federal funds they would otherwise be eligible to receive. The states are likely to succeed on their claim that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment, the court added. No oral argument in the case has yet been scheduled. So there is that, guys. Once again, from theepictimes.com. I'm very, very excited for the Supreme Court to hear this. I hope that we end up getting some audio clips and whatnot of the arguments. I think that'll be really interesting to take a listen to here. But considering the 6-3 majority that we have on the Supreme Court and the pretty plain language that subject to the jurisdiction thereof is, I think that pretty darn soon we're looking at an end to birthright citizenship in this country, which, no more anchor babies, guys. Like, I can't actually express how much I voted for this. Like, it's huge, guys. It's very, very big. So it's exciting. Be excited about it. Jump up and down. Do a little dance because anchor babies may be going the way of the dinosaur, guys. D Doodle out there says, I'm sure Katanji won't understand any of it. Yeah, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion, my friend. That's pretty much already a given. All right, guys. Moving on to the next one here from Breitbart.com, and here we are. We have finally made it to the halfway mark. My gosh, guys, it has been a very long show thus far. It is 8:46 p.m. a lot of the time I would have been wrapping it up here and bringing this thing to a close, but we are only at the halfway mark. We have a lot more news to get into here, and I very much look forward to covering the rest. I see that we have a good number of people, at least 5 people watching over there on YouTube. We have someone on DLive, and we have 14 of you guys over there on Rumble. Do me a favor, guys. If you have been enjoying the show, which I very much hope that you guys have been enjoying the show, follow us over to pill.net. Pill.net is my home base. That is where I feel most comfortable. There's zero censorship. Very, very, lenient place as far as speaking your mind. And it's got a really, really wonderful and amazing community of people on there. You can see them live chatting on Pilled/Foxhole right now on my screen. So come and hang out with us, guys. Follow us over. We're only at the halfway mark, so I still have I have 28 more pieces of news to cover for you guys tonight. So come follow us over, hang out with us over on Pilled.net. You will not regret it. It's a great, great place full of great, great people. There are 2 different links you guys can use to follow us over to Pilled.net. And let me explain the difference between them. The first link is a welcome link that is going to help you get set up with an account on Pilled, so you can grab yourself a username, maybe set yourself a little avatar. It's going to show you some bells and whistles, how to get notifications, how to do this, how to do that. Really cool. I do recommend you guys use that welcome link because it's going to get you all set up. For those of you that just prefer to lurk, don't really care about grabbing yourself a username so you can chat with all these wonderful people out there, then you can use that second link that will take you straight to my channel over on Pill.net, where you can watch the rest of the show totally free with one single click, and we'll be going through all the rest of the news. Again, I've got 28 more pieces, guys. It is an absolute marathon tonight, so follow us over. We'll be on Pill.net, and if you guys have enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button on Rumble, on DLive. If DLive has a like, I don't even know if DLive has a like anymore, or if it ever did to begin with. And over on YouTube, of course, first show on YouTube ever for years and years and years, so thank you guys for the welcome over there, and hopefully you guys also enjoyed. We're going to play a quick little video here for Pilled.net, and then we'll be right back for the news exclusively on Pilled for the rest of the night. I'll see you guys in less than 60 seconds.
Pill.net is proud to host The Breakdown, exclusively on the true home of free speech. To continue watching the show, we are here to help you over to Pilled. If you're new to the platform, just click on the welcome link. It will automatically walk you through signing up for your free account. If you already have a Pilled account, follow the link provided to take you directly to the Season Pixel stream. We are excited to have you join the Pilled family. And if you have any questions at all, just email support@Pilled.net. Enjoy the rest of the breakdown with Season Pixels, exclusively on Pilled.net. Free speech lives here.
Indeed, free speech lives over on Pilled.net. Follow us over, guys. Lots of more news to get into, and looking forward to it. I'll see you guys on Pilled.